Welcome everyone to our Money in the Bank watch party. We are live and we'll be live for the next few hours as we go through a 5-match card featuring 2 ladder matches, 2 briefcases and a whole heap of utter carnage. I've got the show on over here. I of course have got the show on over here for yourselves. And when it comes to these watch parties, I do want to sort of reintroduce the concept. It's a little different from spoiler warning. It's a lot more chill. I don't need to put on my presenter voice. I don't need to worry about everyone leaving. It's a bit more sparsely attended. I do spend a bit more time on my phone, basically finding clips to use for TikTok and shorts and the like, and working on content. But it's essentially what I aim for is not the same sort of fast-paced, high-tempo situation that we have with spoiler warning. We're not going to spend all our time trying to give you all the news, all the breakdown. I'm not going to be alternative commentary because the latency doesn't allow it. I'm low latency, but that does mean something will happen on screen and then I'll be reacting to it about 20 seconds later. So it doesn't quite fit the beat of alternative commentary. What I like to do essentially is just bring you a show where we're watching wrestling with friends. Just imagine you got a few friends around for a couple of drinks and you're watching wrestling together. So you've got company. That's what our watch parties are. The main event tonight will be John Cena and Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. We're getting the full intros as they are right now. There was the addition of a match added from AAA, Octagon Jr. challenging Dominik Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship. Dominik Mysterio is sort of the most important person in WWE right now. And it shows. It absolutely shows. So that's the plan. That's the intention. That's what we're looking for. It will just be as simple as that. We're just going to hang out, shoot the breeze, and watch Money in the Bank. If you're watching, please remember to hit like. And we will be using our normal system of for every pound, for every dollar, we will be doing a squat. Just as a way to say thank you by adding punishment to myself for anyone who does decide to donate. If you don't donate, that's also cool. Everyone who lurks, everyone who watches for a couple of seconds, everyone who leaves like, everyone who comments, you're all helping the growth of this channel, and I appreciate all of you for it. We seem to now be essentially kind of stuck at the 9,900 level, but we are seeing the numbers start to creep back up again as people leave who are looking for shorts, and we get closer and closer to the big day. I think 10k is not that far away. We are opening the show just by watching people walking backstage on their phones. Rhea looks genuinely surprised that there's a camera there. Genuinely surprised. She was not ready for this. So yes, Money in the Bank. We're getting our intro. It is very much spy themed, which I quite like. I also want to share my opinion here that I do think it's possible that Seth Rollins leaves with the World Heavyweight Championship and The Rock's mini faction, the third man, takes another belt, meaning that both of the top titles are very much under the umbrella of The Rock. So I think there's a few options there available. I've got the audio in this ear, which hopefully should mean I'm able to keep up with what's going on. Daniel Berry says, hey everyone, and happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you too, Daniel. Though here in the UK, it is officially past midnight and officially the morning. Always fun. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat. How are you all? Welcome, Marcel. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you, Leon. Had a very, very good day. Very chill, very relaxed. And spent some time playing cricket, which was a lot of fun. I can't throw, save my life. Ed says, hey Tom. Hello, Ed. Good to see you. Sean says, we'll see if the betting odds are right about Seth and Naomi winning Money in the Bank. They are at current the betting favourites. Cal says, hello, Mr. Tom Colohue. Hope you and your family are well. Doing very well, thank you, mate. Says, I really enjoyed the Bo vignette yesterday explaining why and who they are back for. Explained their goals and targets and responded to critics with the we return not for nostalgia. Very happy. Were the vignettes you said they filmed a few weeks back? Yes, they were. There's a number of vignettes that are available for the WWE to essentially use at their own pace, giving people time away if they need it because there are a lot of bodies involved. Eric says, who do you think wins a Dom Jr. match? Dominik. I think AAA is not going to be winning championships from the WWE. That's not going to happen. Sean says, do you know if WWE's cancelled the storyline between Charlotte and Alexa? They haven't interacted in 2 weeks. As I have mentioned, the WWE did put the two of them together, essentially Alexa trying to give Charlotte a friend to talk to, but there was no long-term intention there, and the creative team hadn't really written anything out for them. So there may be times when it doesn't quite happen. There may be times where it doesn't really become a thing long-term. Cal says, Travis Scott is on a plane right now. Oh, I hope not. And Bailey says, Rhea Ripley's ability to command the camera is impressive. She gets people to watch her. Watch me like Liv Morgan. Eric is surprised at no Worlds Collide stream. Why? When do I do that? When have I ever done that? Rick answers, evening Tom. Evening Rick. And Cal says, very strange week. Seeing the most powerful man in the world and richest man in the world have a spat. Yeah, a proper lover's tiff, wasn't it? Just not fun for anyone. 2 failures trying to compete to out-failure the other. Sean says, how far in advance is WWE Evolve tape, Tom? Not too far. I think they do batches of 4 weeks or so at a time. So, not particularly huge. Cal says, I feel Alexa is looking for friends, which eventually will lead her to the Wyatt 6. Well, she's really glad that Charlotte was her friend, but this is not a friendship that will never ever end. I don't know if it's just because WWE has been breaking into stadiums lately, but when they go to an arena like they have for Money in the Bank, it feels sparse. It feels empty. Cal says, could we see the Wyatt 6 tonight? I think it's very unlikely. They don't really have a long-term storyline, and there are no tag team championship matches, or in fact anything, from the SmackDown tag team division. Andrew, good to see you, mate. Says, hey Tom, how are you, my friend? And enjoy the show. Thank you, Andrew. Good to see you too, mate. Fiend says, hey Tom, are Seth and John Cena working together? I think it'll be revealed soon. It could explain why Seth purposely only targeted the World Heavyweight title and never mentioned the WWE title. As regards Seth Rollins, I did mention before WrestleMania that I do believe Seth Rollins to be the third man in the combination of The Rock, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. I think it might be possible that they end up with all the belts. But long term, it is indeed the faction that Seth is building that will be inheriting the crown from John Cena. We're opening with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So hopefully Rhea Ripley's ready. Cal says, did you see Montez saying he's terrified of the 6? Yes. They've essentially been told, you just got to put him over. You just got to put him over. And quite a few people said, I'm not saying I'm scared. I'm not doing it. Eric says, as regards Javon Evans, he's already stupid good. Cal says, I have Seth. If not Seth, then Solo wins and cashes in on Jacob. Fiend says, I'm tired of this Money in the Bank theme, as in the imagery, because Si made it for me and it's pretty cool, I thought. Sean says, what has happened to Andrew Zarian? Haven't heard from him in a while. I believe he still runs his weekly show. It's just that he hasn't broken any particularly big news lately. These things happen. WWE have been trying to ensure that people dropping major news are sort of prevented from doing so, and certain people will suffer because of it. We also saw... Do you remember Nick Hausman? Do you remember Nick Hausman? Because many of you probably won't already. He launched his own project using information almost entirely on CM Punk. CM Punk joined the WWE. Nick Hausman vanished. So I don't think that's the case for Andrew Zarian, but certainly it'd be interesting to see what's actually happened there, because you're right, I haven't heard the name in a while, but I've not been on social media, so I wouldn't. Cal says, this is in Bailey's hometown, isn't it? Bailey's hometown is San Diego. Home state, not hometown. Cal says, all gas, no brains was criminal. It was. Gotcha, Fiend. Says that there are a lot of empty seats. People are still joining. People are still filing in. Cal says, no names, but a certain journalist said today Travis Scott could or could not be there. I always love those reports. The ones which are just ridiculous from the off. And yet people lap them up and people re-report it. There was a spoiler put out behind a paywall, which essentially said, oh, the betting favourite, they're the favourite. Yeah, stunned. San Jose, thank you, Christopher Leclerc. Appreciate that clarification. San Jose, not San Diego. I wasn't far off. Cal says, I mean, if he's right, hell have a victory lap. I mean, he's definitely right. Travis Scott may or may not be there. Andrew says, oh God, even the hook holding the briefcase has sponsors. Yep. That's WWE now. That's WWE in the Nick Khan. They just, you know what they like? Money. To be fair, so do I. So, like, I can't blame them. Fiend says, WWE 2K added Alexa Bliss 25. It costs an astronomical amount of money to obtain or a lot of time to earn in my faction. Yeah, and much like I said, that's wrestling now. That's gaming now. That's just the way gaming works. It's all pay to play. Hello, Ishi. Good to see you, sir. Sean says, I'm surprised Featherstone is still saying stuff after being wrong about Drew McIntyre winning the chamber. Yeah, so you'll know that does look like an incredible amount of empty seats. You'll note that the vast majority of wrestling journalists, when they're wrong, just ignore it. They just pretend it was they pretend they were right. That's all they do. They just pretend they were right. And I kind of get why, because when I was wrong about something, and these things do happen, I apologized for it. And I've had people calling me a fraud ever since, because I acknowledged that I was wrong about something. I stand by it. I think you should apologize when you're wrong, but apparently that's a very rare concept. Marcel says, who do you all have for this match? I have Roxanne. I also have Roxanne. What are your predictions for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match? There is certainly a betting odds favourite for Naomi. She seems very hyped up, I'll say that. But there are, I feel, some good choices here. Rickan, I'm seeing what you're seeing as well. But it does look like it might be the lights. As weird as it sounds. I do think people are still filing in, so there's still time. But in actual wraparound images, seems like it's fine. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Ishi, for the chat rate. Always appreciate that boost. Sean's got Giulia. Kit Kat has Roxanne. Joey says, did you check out the Vikingo match? I watched highlights of it. No, it looks like it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think they'll probably drop the lighting system in future. Oh, they've added dry ice to Stephanie Vaquer's entrance. And, yep. Cool. Cool. Yep. 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 She's wrestled so much recently. She's basically wrestling like a champion. I do like that she's gone for a different colour, though. Really make herself stand out, despite the two shows. Alexa Bliss is just trying to be out the way now. Bailey says, Stephanie Vaquer is a star. Sai says, I wonder if the empty seats are the people who tried to make it to both shows. Possible. Possible. Worlds Collide definitely did go over. A lot of love for Stephanie Vaquer in the chat. Joey says Stephanie Vaquer is really over on the main roster. Fiend says Stephanie Vaquer is her. I know the chat's a little quieter, but honestly, I really enjoy these shows. These watch parties. I know spoiler warning is like more attended and it definitely makes more money, as it were, when it comes to ad revenue. But these are just that bit more chill, that bit more relaxed. It just... I don't have to be on so much, you know? I can go quiet every now and then. It's never going to be as attended as spoiler warning, for the simple reason as spoiler warning has no competition. Name any other wrestling show that takes place at that time of day, that regularly, sharing that much news. There is no one doing what I'm doing. For the watch parties, though, everyone is doing what I'm doing. Even Jonathan Coachman does watch parties now. I'm just not that interested in competing. I'd rather share time with people I like and people I care about, right here in this chat, and watch Giulia's entrance, because I still think her music and her entrance is fantastic. I think Roxanne, Stephanie Vaquer and Giulia have that. Do you remember in 2015 when the horsewomen were called up? Bayley wasn't just yet, so it was Sasha Banks, it was Charlotte Flair and it was Becky Lynch. And you can tell immediately they were brought up for a reason. They were brought up to change the game. I feel like that's what we're seeing with Giulia, with Stephanie Vaquer and with Roxanne. They were brought up to make the game change. Rickon says Stephanie is going to be pushed to the moon. She's a star. You just wait for that Becky match. That'll be a lot of fun. Joey says it's crazy. Gable is working the ladder match after those big spots with Vikingo. Yeah, it would certainly be crazy if he was. I think you got a bit confused though. Gable isn't in the ladder match. Bean says the Intuit Dome looks really cool. Eric says the WWE kind of messed up Giulia. They booked it backwards. Now we all know she's not winning. I do get what you're saying. They've kind of given the game away as to what her future entails, and it doesn't involve winning this match. Fiend is loving the gear. Also says Jordan Grace too when she's called up. Andrew says it's crazy how they switched on Giulia to Stephanie in NXT. Yet at some point during the NXT Championship run of Giulia, WWE realised she wasn't the jewel in the crown they were looking for because someone else was starting to outshine her. Fiend says Giulia wasn't supposed to be in NXT that long. She was supposed to be in it about that long. I remember all the rumours that she was going to build a dynasty and compete with Asuka for the longest women's championship reign. That didn't happen. The WWE had no intention to ever do that. She was never going to be there particularly long. Rickon says Jordan Grace is like Bayley of the group. She'll be called up last. To be fair, she was also a late addition to that group. As I say, WWE knew what they were doing. They were building a future dynasty. And we're about to see the benefits of that in this ladder match. Rhea Ripley has got very interesting gear. I do like that there's a real mix here. Fiend says Mariah May won't be called up till next year. I don't expect so, no. She's only really just arrived. Oh, that was a harsh zoom out. So here we go. We have ladders. We're probably also going to have tables. I'm interested to see who's calling the shots here. Oh, those really do look like empty seats. Those are empty seats in a very awkward... That's a lot of empty seats. So I'll be interested to see who calls this one. They've started out with the old blood versus the young bucks sort of vibe. And there's two people who are very obvious ring generals. You've got Alexa Bliss, who I think will be the ring general here. And you've got Rhea Ripley, who can also very much do that job. The WWE were concerned that there were going to be some language barriers, particularly obviously for Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer. That has not proven the case. So they are capable of calling it in the ring, but they need someone like a Bliss to essentially hold their hand and lead them through something like this. Your first Money in the Bank is a big deal. And while you might be familiar with ladder matches and the more extreme death match types, a WWE Money in the Bank is very choreographed, very scripted. They take a lot of care with it. They're teasing us of an Alexa Bliss Rhea Ripley feud, which I feel like they've been teasing us with for decades now. Rhea Ripley hasn't even been wrestling decades. Joey says, I feel like you book yourself into a corner when you do undefeated streaks. I agree. Cal still believes in Roxanne. Sean says, many fans think debuting Giulia as a face was a mistake. Do you mean in NXT or do you mean in WWE? Because she wasn't on main roster. She didn't debut as a face. Lovely offense by Stephanie Vaquer. She didn't do great at the beginning of the match on SmackDown, so I would hope... Yeah, they're just showing her off now. Andrew says, Mickie James would not be happy with Ripley's gear. I mean... Mickie James has worn a lot of interesting gear. If you're aware of Mickie James's history before wrestling, I don't think she'd care that much about it. Rickon says WWE has the best women's division in the world. Cal says, did you know James Storm killed Mickie James in TNA? He pushed her in front to a tree. He pushed her to a tree. Fiend says, the lights make it hard to see if there are people in those seats. Yeah. There aren't. There definitely aren't. There are a lot of empty seats. In NXT, gotcha, Sean. That makes more sense. I feel like Rhea Ripley's just going to get beat up this whole match. Train makes more sense. Makes a lot more sense. Do you remember when Baron Corbin killed 2 people? Also a Money in the Bank match. Joey says, do you think Mariah May gets fast-tracked to the main roster? No, not just yet. I think they've just called up a lot of people into the women's division, and they want to give them a little time first. Carl says, lower prices, no empty seats. If you look at the seats in question, those are not seats I would expect to be empty. True, Bailey, very true. Fiend says, I thought it was a sellout. It probably is. And there's just something preventing them from being there. Those are not seats that go unsold. They're just not. We already have a We Want Tables chant. I'm interested to see if we hear a lot of We Want Truth. John Cena co-opted that particular chant beautifully. He really co-opted it beautifully on SmackDown. Essentially meaning that anyone chanting that now it's being kayfabed. He's chanting for Cena. Possible, Fiend, very possible. There might well be a massive jam in the middle of LA. Giulia just no-sold a ladder. Not acceptable. Are they really sponsored by 7-Eleven? The sponsorships are getting way out of control. Raycan says, Green Shirt Man went to Worlds Collide and is now front row Money in the Bank, living his best life. Yeah, but he will have travelled with WWE. Like, he would have travelled with WWE. He just goes with them. Carl, as I say, there are definitely seats with no people in them. Like, the lights are weird, but there are empty seats. Joey says, I know there's a big protest going down in LA right now. There's a number of different possibilities. I don't think they're unsold seats. The WWE wouldn't let that happen. They would give those tickets away rather than risk the optics. Fiend is asking about the protest. Joey, do you have any info there? So far, solid start. Some decent action, though not particularly hardcore. Rhea Ripley and Alexa Bliss have largely taken a back seat. The focus has been on Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer. Oh, lovely. Naomi just taking a beating, which I respect. Sean says, are you sure he goes with them? Tommy's been seen at AEW shows also? Yes. Just yes. Joey says, they're protesting ICE for the deportations. Gotcha. I saw some of that. LA's the right place for it. LA will not lay down. Someone's got to stand up to it. Like, they don't identify themselves. If someone wearing balaclavas kidnaps someone and you're wondering where they are, well, at this point you're assuming it's ICE because that's what they do. They're literally kidnapping people. Rhea Ripley's about to destroy Roxanne. Oh, that could have gone better. Could have gone better. Looked devastating, probably because it was. That's going to hurt. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Amazing work from Roxanne there. Ooh, Elden Ring. That's a lot of ads. Fiend says, can I just say that Buddy Matthews has won in life? He doesn't have to win championships. He's already won in life. I get what you're saying. I respect the man's game, because he must have a lot of it. Cal says the star power of Alexa is crazy. The pop when she comes out every time is crazy. She is bigger than WWE at this point for me. Like, she chose to come back, but she didn't have to. She could have done whatever she wanted. Cal says that move looked very, very painful. Bailey says Roxanne's ring work is impressive. Can only agree. You say piglet, Fiend. It was a shared pig until the pig died. Cal says, I do feel she'd come back for the Wyatt 6. Certainly a lot of people rumoured that, but no real evidence of it yet. Break the straw. Break the straw. That was awkward. That was awkward. Guys, no. That was awkward. I think Roxanne is not happy with what just happened either. The ladder didn't hit it. It bounced off the rope. It was just that did not go how they wanted it to go. Sean says, I want to see Alexa take some ladder bumps so it shuts the haters up that she's afraid to bump. She's definitely not afraid to bump. She's waiting until a bit later in the match. At the moment, it looks like they've split duty. Rhea Ripley, the ring general for the beginning. But this whole match is going to put a lot of focus onto our 3 new call-ups. This is going to be the coming out party, essentially. Cal says, oh yeah, there's empty seats. Too true, Kevin. Welcome to the show. Fiend says, Giulia and Roxanne realising they need to neutralise Ripley. I think it's a general rule of life. If there is a Rhea Ripley, you got to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. Cal says, has Alexa disintegrated? No, she's just on the outside. Waiting for a moment. We also lost Stephanie Vaquer for a moment. Alexa Bliss is now moving around the ring onto the rampway. Just to keep an eye. There's a lot of crawling involved in these matches. Andrew, haven't heard that myself. Don't know what it's supposed to entail. Fiend says that guy in the front row has a very cool beard. And Cal says if only Alexa can use those fireballs. Yeah, I mean, if she could still do that, that would certainly add a lot to her play. Okay, so the Dragon Screw is an interesting move. Sometimes it looks devastating. That one looked great, but when you're not connected to something and you just go over, it don't look that good. Good work from Stephanie Vaquer making it interesting. Fiend says, looks like those seats are being filled. Yeah, they will be. As I say, I think it's just people finding their way there. Sean says, halfway through the year, Tom, what has been the best match of the year so far? A difficult one because it's hard for me to remember them all. I think there were some good contenders at WrestleMania this year. Oh, I like what's going on here. Eric says, any crazy spots yet? Nothing I'd say crazy. There's been a few which look like it really hurt. Nothing I'd say crazy. Bailey suggests for the best match, the women's freeway at Mania. I mean, there was a lot of talent in that ring. Kevin very much agrees. And Cal says, I think Stephanie will be a star. She's one of those, much like Rhea Ripley, where the WWE's job should be to get out of the way and just let her become what she's capable of being. Still nothing from Bliss. She's really taking her time to get involved here. I'm wondering if maybe she's nursing an injury. That's why we haven't seen much from her. Naomi climbing Giulia. I feel like, Giulia's going to do a sit-up. Very nice. There she is, Cal. Picking a moment. She's picking a moment. decent pop for Alexa. I would have expected slightly bigger when she starts climbing the ladder, but you never know. Cal says we need an Alexa win. I don't think we need one. I think it'd help. What up yourself, Jay? Good to see you, mate. Welcome. Who have you got winning this one? Looks like we're going to take a moment for Rhea Ripley to rest on the outside now. I do like that Roxanne and Alexa are actually the exact same size. It's nice that Alexa isn't completely overpowered by everyone she comes up against. She has people who can work with her too. No idea, is she? No idea. Sean says, do you think we can get a cash in tonight? I think it's likely. I think Seth Rollins could well leave with the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that's a realistic concept. Thank you, Jay. You don't see a lot of power bombs from Alexa Bliss. I like that. Clever work from Roxanne and Giulia, just dodging out the way. That doesn't happen often enough in wrestling. Ladders take a while to fall over. You could just, get off. I don't really want to sit here and advocate getting off in an arena full of thousands of people, but sometimes you just got to get off. Cal says, I like the idea of John entering the Money in the Bank match and winning. It would be hilarious. You watch Twitter, enjoy that one. Oh, this is going to hurt. Oh, she took that properly. You want to talk about awkward bumps. She did not land on her knees, as you would expect in that. She took that full to the gut. That's going to hurt. Cal says, I think Roman will come back at SummerSlam again. I expect we'll see Roman in a match at SummerSlam. Cal just says, poor Alexa. Now, when it comes to Roxanne, is her lip bleeding or is that just makeup that's been streaked? Cal, I've said it before and I'll say it again. When in doubt, you got to get off. Someone's tipping over a ladder, it takes forever. Just get off, If there's a table and you don't want to go through it, just get off the table. If someone's trying to concerto you, just get off that first chair before they hit you with the second one. It's a good rule of life. When in doubt, just get off. Roxanne trying to run away from Rhea. I like what they did there. I think this might be the last we see of Roxanne. Yeah, although that wasn't particularly powerful. Bailey says, when will we see the second El Grande Americano helping out Chad Gable? What do you mean second? There's only one El Grande Americano. I don't know why you're comparing Chad Gable. Everyone's like, oh, Chad Gable's doing double duty. What do you mean? It's not real. Yeah, absolutely, Sean. There's quite a few shorter women who can definitely do some great work together. It's an Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair feud just doesn't quite look like a fair fight. Same with Rhea Ripley. She's a dominant woman. And she's just throwing Roxanne around right now. Oh, that's going to... Yep. Pardon me. Just threw Roxanne into Naomi. That's where we are now. Sean says, great bump by Alexa. Carl says, will be fun to watch Cody and Jey kick out of 5,000 attitude adjustments. Well, to be fair, it's not like it's not established. The attitude adjustment does absolutely nothing. Proven fact. People don't lose to that move anymore. They just don't. There's a pretty big bruise on Rhea Ripley's thigh there. Okay, so we're about half an hour in. I gotta say, the match has been okay. Well, we haven't seen yet really any standout spots. There's been a couple of spots that look like they really hurt, a couple of unique moments. But we haven't yet had the moment where, the viral moment of the match. The moment that Penta's definitely going to get later on, Cal says, call me crazy. I think Cena and Logan win. I believe a cash in too. Eric says, do you think Liv will be a favourite for Queen of the Ring? No. Liv's a champion of current and will be a champion in future. If you're going to have a Queen of the Ring, make it someone else. Rhea just seems a little bit out of it. Can't seem to decide what the right move is. Why are you adding another ladder? You've already got one. Martin, welcome, mate. Says, hey, mate, hope you're well and all good in chat. All good, mate. Good to see you. How you getting on? Sean says, Joe Hendry has been using the attitude adjustment. Would he have gotten permission from John Cena? Yeah. You don't use that without talking to Cena. You just don't. But someone's got to inherit it. Maybe it's just a way to start a feud. You didn't need to do damage there. You didn't need to go after Vaquer. Cal says, I like the idea of someone like Chelsea Green winning Queen of the Ring. I think that's a good shout. I'd go a little further down as well, to be honest. I'd be looking at a Kaylee Ray. I think Giulia is probably a good shout. Okay, so that might be the viral moment. Not for the right reasons, but it might well be. Martin says, good, just been mega busy after a short holiday. Yeah, I saw how well attended your show was. I think it was earlier today. Busy, busy, man. Cal just said, sensational. Well, Stephanie needs someone to get involved here. Roxanne's on the way up. Vaquer needs to kill time here. That's something that it takes a moment to learn. How to essentially kill time at the top of a ladder. Because a lot of wrestlers never learned that. Very much the WWE way. You get to the top of the ladder and then you think about things. Always reach for the ladder before you get there. Alexa Bliss on the other side. I feel like we're heading into the finish now. Eric suggests maybe someone like a Piper winning it. To be fair, Piper's come very close before. I believe she was in a final against Zelina Vega. Correct me if I'm wrong. Naomi doing some damage to Alexa. Are we building more? Is Naomi just going to build another strut here? Cal says, are WWE worried about Zelina Vega, Tom? No. No real worry. Oh, thank you, Fiend. A fair correction, and one I never ever want to hear again. Dewdrop. Yeah, that was a thing. There's two separate wrestling matches happening here. And no Giulia or Rhea Ripley, who I imagine will be involved again. But I don't think they can build anything else here. Eric says, then again, we would need someone who can credibly challenge at SummerSlam. Again, that's one of the reasons I would go towards Giulia myself. I think she can definitely credibly challenge an Io Sky. Oh, we're doing for double code red. It's not... You've not got enough purchase on the ladders. The code red is a move that the person receiving it does. Like Bliss and Roxanne just basically lean forwards. That's their job there. Whereas Naomi and Stephanie Vaquer just have to throw themselves backwards. And I would say Stephanie Vaquer, not so much. They don't have to be, Eric. You get to challenge for whatever championship you want. Giulia versus Tiffany Stratton wouldn't be as fun for me. But hey, maybe Alexa Bliss wins it. Cal says Alexa just clocked Naomi in the face. She's pretty good at that punch. Fiend saying they're putting their educated feet to good use. Bailey says Chelsea Green winning Queen of the Ring would be simultaneously cringy and great, which is basically where she lives. It's basically where she lives, in that exact spot. Cal loved it, says that was awesome. And Fiend said Stephanie is a great seller. Half the battle, and I think something that's very much come out of NXT, is the level of selling. I remember when Bailey came up and she was just better at selling than anyone else. They just checked on Alexa. Hopefully she's okay. She's been through the walls today. Giulia in the ring. I would have expected Rhea Ripley, but it's Roxanne involved here. Carl, I agree. I've been mentioning that myself. Roman's definitely got Hollywood in his future. The limited dates worked for him, but I do suspect this will be his last contract. Fiend is missing Dolph Ziggler. I also love how Dolph Ziggler made a trademark of the fact that he could actually climb a ladder normally. Like, he could do it at speed. It was very impressive. It shouldn't have been. Should have been very normal, in fact. Should have been no surprise whatsoever. Instead, was incredibly surprising for no reason. Seen Alexa Bliss. Roxanne going for the hair. I kind of agree, Cal. But we'll see how it goes. I do know he's wrapping up. We're seeing a little less from Seth. We're seeing a little less from Becky. They're looking to wrap up as well. So they're just trying to build the future and the legacy while they can. Oh, this is going to take out Giulia. So Alexa Bliss gets 2 double finisher moments. 2 double finisher moments. Fiend says, I think we've got 1 or 2 more years left of Roman before he leaves. I think we're getting that major match with Seth where they finally bury the hatchet where he puts over Jacob Fatu. I would agree with all of that. One thing I love about Roman and Seth in general is that the rock, paper, scissors didn't leave with Dean Ambrose. So for those unaware, at some point early in the careers of Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, and Seth Rollins, a decision was made by the 3 of them that their future would be decided by rock, paper, scissors. And I don't mean like they're going to do a rock, paper, scissors. I mean that Roman beats Ambrose, Ambrose beats Rollins, and Rollins beats Roman. That's how it works. That's how it works every time. So even though Ambrose is gone, Seth Rollins still reliably beats Roman Reigns. They kept that going. Naomi's moving with some speed here. This might well be it. Oh yeah, she's climbing that ladder in no time. And for some reason looking around. She climbed that ladder at some speed. Looks like she's got it. Naomi is indeed the winner. The betting favourite. And a signal of very big things for Naomi. I don't necessarily think she's going to cash in successfully, but I think this might well turn Bianca heel. Naomi's a good shout. I think she can do good things with it. I think it maintains some momentum. I also think this is in service of Jade Cargill. For me, this is how Jade Cargill becomes champion rather than how Naomi becomes champion. Interested to see how that one goes. Eric says, the Devil's Kiss onto the ladder. Give her every title right now. Bailey just shouts, caution. Fiend says, yes, I'm so happy. Kit Kat says, wow. Angie says that she's a Cash App champion. Cal says, Naomi cashes in on Tiffany soon, in my opinion. And Fiend says, Naomi deserves it. I think it's possible, actually, that what we actually get is... Actually, so many times. Tiffany Stratton versus Bianca Belair, leading into Naomi cashing in on Belair, or preventing Belair from winning it. Then we get some more Jade Cargill, and eventually we move to Jade Cargill versus Bianca, and that's where we end up. I don't know. It depends if she actually wins the cash-in. I do love that they always show us a Carnage. They're really zooming in on those empty seats. They probably shouldn't be doing that. Sean says, I don't agree with Naomi winning. I don't see how it fits into her character. That's because they decide the briefcase after they've already planned the future. So we don't know what her character is going to be going into it. Fiend says, Naomi wins the title by cashing in and Jade Cargill will take the title off of Naomi. That's what I see as well. Cal says, Tom, do you think Jade beats Tiffany then Naomi cashes in? Also a possibility. I mean, Jey did strongly hint that she was coming after Tiffany at SummerSlam. Sean says, do you think Naomi is our first failed women's cash-in? I'm not sure. We'll see how it plays out. Fiend says, Naomi shouldn't be the first failed women's cash-in. Yes, but we're going to say that about every woman. Someone's got to be first. Sai has rated the match at a 7.5. Bailey gives it a 7. Marcel gives it an 8. Personally, I'm going to go 7. I think the women did put their body on the line, but I think it did lack a couple of those high-octane spots. The actual quality of wrestling for me seemed quite low. Pleasantly surprised by the winner. I think that can go quite far. And I think it's telling of what the future is going to look like in WWE. But I also think in general there was a lot of focus on the future. That being the NXT call-ups, which is how it should have been. So I'm giving it a 7. Raycan says Naomi deserved it. Cal says Miz said all the talk on him on social media was wrong. Because it was. Yep. I do love people saying, oh, he deleted everything on social media. It was never there. There's a way back machine for a reason. Bailey says, empty seats aside, this crowd is nothing like it was in the Raw debut on Netflix. Well, I mean, empty seats aside and all that, but still empty seats. D. Freeman, welcome mate, says Naomi will cash on Jade once she wins the Queen of the Ring and gets her shot at SummerSlam. Long-term booking right there. And Kevin says nobody's going to top last year. Chelsea Green's big spot with the table. There were no tables at all. Very confusing. Imagine a ladder match with no tables. Whoever thought that was going to work? Ladder match and no tables. Silly. Silly. Right, let's see what social media is saying about that one. That's our first match down of 5. Went slightly over that first half hour, as it usually does when you factor in the entrances and everything going on with like the intro movie and the like. So I do think this one's ending after the 3 hours. At least I bloody hope so. We're just looking at a street. We're just looking at a street. This is a very strange choice. Like, maybe they're trying to celebrate, like, really celebrate the town, but it just seems like a time killer right there. Okay, Cosm. I'd imagine that looks very similar to where they showed the Wrexham game. Which is a thing, by the by. They showed a Wrexham game somewhere like that. Rob McElhenney was in attendance. Was a whole thing. Oh, got a few people from AAA. Mr. Iguana made some friends. You see Conan on the left, he had a moment there, struggling to stand up. AAA very much on show here. Right, I'm just grabbing myself a video for TikTok. Celebrating Naomi's big moment there. Because why not? They're hyping up what we're about to see, which is, of course, our Intercontinental Championship match. I do feel like there's a lot of strong focus on Dominik Mysterio. WWE clearly love what they're seeing there. Naomi wins the briefcase in women's WWE Money in the Bank 2025 ladder match. Make it red, make it thick, make it slightly smaller. Lovely. I just love that Dominik basically books his own matches now. Like Judgment Day are just allowed to say whatever they want. I mean, it happened with the Bloodline, didn't it? They were just booking their own matches. So both ladder matches will likely take a little longer than you'd expect. That's pretty normal. Carl says the product at the moment is the worst it's been in a long time. I wouldn't go that far. It's certainly not hitting the heights that it was, but I do think there are people doing very good work. Jey Uso is over. Dominik Mysterio's doing good stuff. There's some people doing really good stuff right now that I'm really enjoying. But I struggle when we've got John Cena just being boring for an hour. And that's his gimmick. I struggle when we're not seeing a lot of Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, CM Punk. You know, the big names. That said, I would say Giulia, Stephanie Vaquer, Roxanne, they're adding a lot to the women's division. I'm excited to see how far and how quickly they can go. Marcel says if the Money in the Bank holder cashes in during the main event tonight, does the tag match just end in a no contest? It depends. Like, it really depends. They've not really specified what would happen in a tag match. Bailey says the Dominik Mysterio match should be a time filler. Feels like that's exactly what happened. Fiend says it's not perfect, but I don't think the product is worse than the later years of the Vince regime. Joey says how much time do you think the IC title match will get? Fiend says 10 minutes. I would go a little further than that. I think it'll be a good 15. Fiend just says Mr. Iguana is already over. Joey says it's funny how over Mr. Iguana is. Kevin says, you know something, Tom, still no tag team title match on pay-per-view. The last one was Mania 41. Yes, it was, and there weren't many before that. Bailey says Conan sounded like Jesse Ventura at Worlds Collide. It seemed a couple of seconds behind every move. He's a little older. We can give him that. Daryl says they made sure to get them that 5-match card. Yeah, I mean, same thing happened at Saturday Night Main Event. They just threw a match on at the last second. It's almost like Triple H isn't prepared. Bean says John Cena has to put over Logan Paul to actually get heel heat. Well, to be fair, he got heel heat by crapping all over the We Want Truth chant as well. Carl says problem is Cena didn't do anything that bad. He just kicked someone in the balls. It's generic, boring stuff. He learned a lot from Shinsuke Nakamura. That's all I'm going to say. Joey says, I hope the Cena and Cody feud doesn't drag out forever. SummerSlam. SummerSlam seems like it's going to be the rematch. And after John Cena wins, I can't imagine there's much more Cody can actually do with that. John says, is Punk on limited days? I believe he's on somewhat limited days. Not as limited as a Randy Orton or as a Roman Reigns, but he's on less days than your average wrestler. He got a very good deal at his last his last new signing. Rickan says main titles only change hands at WrestleMania or SummerSlam now, which it was less predictable. Sean says ever since her return back at Rumble, Alexa is yet to win at a PLE in 2025. To be fair, she hasn't featured on that many. And when you say win, it's difficult to win a match like Money in the Bank or Royal Rumble with so many bodies involved. Dominik on the way down to the ring. Looks like Liv Morgan will be backing him up. Wearing his mask. He never gets to wear that anymore. Liv looks great. D. Freeman says people who say the product is so bad be showing that they really try to placate the internet crowd. If you live through the Vince era from 2003 to 2020, you've seen what bad it really is. To be fair, he did only say in recent years. I think we might be overselling a little bit there. D. Freeman says, does Cody win King of the Ring? No, I don't necessarily think so. I think the challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship will win King of the Ring. Cal says, I do see Cena staying till next year. And Bailey says the WWE lineup could be markedly different by 2028. Lots of retirements ahead. Yes. Some of them won't be optional retirements. Some of them, unfortunately, are going to be forced retirements. WWE won't give people time to rest and relax. WWE will be saying goodbye, whether people want it or not. As we saw with R-Truth, essentially. That's just how the WWE operates now. They say goodbye, and they say goodbye fast. Wade Barrett, all over it. All over it. I'm not sure why you would feed into society. To my knowledge, The Rock is not there. Marcel says, I see Sammy winning King of the Ring if Seth is champion. I could see that. That'd be fun. Bailey says, don't want to see it, but the horsewomen could all be off the lineup in 5 years. To be fair, they've had quite long and storied careers. Not particularly surprised at the modest reception for Octagon Jr. Definitely not a familiar name to WWE fans. Fiend says Mercedes probably won't. Mercedes is probably going to wrestle for another 10 years or so, to be fair. Rickan says, I hate these forced retirements. WWE not letting people go out on their own terms, but I get it. Cal says, is there a Hexagon Jr.? My personal favourite has always been Triangle Jr. And that is a mask that keeps swapping. So when people say play the Triangle Jr., they don't mean like the triangle. They mean put on the mask and get to work. Child labour, whole thing. Daryl thinks we're going to see the return of Roman tonight. John says, I can see why we get lengthy title reigns with the women's tag belts, because there are basically no teams. There are some, and I do feel like WWE doesn't really do a lot with the people that they have. They've got enough women to make some new tag teams. Do it. Bailey says, Triangle Jr., how about Parallelogram? Never had kids. Just things apparently didn't line up as they were looking for. I'm not a funny man. Ed says, Nick Khan is ringside along the ramp going towards a hard cam. That's his dedicated seat. He's always in that exact seat. It's interesting. Devil says, Liv is so obviously helping Dom retain. It's so obvious. A double obvious in 10 words. That is a man who is keen to let me know that something is obvious. She says, what about Pentagram? Penta? Yeah, he's in Money in the Bank later. Naturally, they're all related. Fiend says they shouldn't have cut Isla Dawn or Caden and Kitana. They weren't going to use them. Bailey says this is a squat-free broadcast. No squats after midnight. I mean, I will be doing a squat per every dollar, every pound of donations. That's not going to change. That's still what we're going to do. If no one wants to donate, that's also cool, because it means I get to sit down and not do squats. So it might be a squat-free broadcast, and you know what? I'm not going to be upset by that. I appreciate the continued generosity. And that's all that really matters. I'm going to sneeze, bear with. My youngest hit me with the phrase, bear with, a couple of days ago. And it's just that moment of, you're definitely my kid. Fiend says, Unholy, Union and Cade and Katana are the best teams. That's why I'm sad about their releases. Good talent that didn't deserve it. Kevin says, don't be surprised if Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria is going to be match of the night. I think this one is there to be the showcase. You know, Dominik and Octagon should be able to make good things happen here. But yeah, Becky versus Lyra will probably be quite fun. Are you meaning star making, Daryl? Because they're essentially using this match to just try and raise the profile of AAA. As of course was the whole job of Worlds Collide. Rickan says, who turns face when they feud Dom or Finn, Dom is still getting massive heat. He plays the heel role so well. I think the way they turn him face is by keeping him heel for a while longer. Sometimes the best thing you can do is the exact opposite of what the fans want, because it just helps galvanize the support. Fiend says Dom has come quite a long way. I'd agree. I'm very impressed with his work, gotta say. Bailey says, unless you're Triple H, every former WWE champ is released or let their contract expire under Vince. Yeah, and to be clear, that did happen at Triple H. He just transitioned after that release, after his contract came to an end. That is business. Unfortunately for many, that is how wrestling works. It is a business. And we're complaining about people being released, but reality is, it's a massive improvement on where they were. Instead of firing people and not paying them, they're now letting their contracts run down and giving them plenty of warning so that they can prepare for it. With many, and look at the example of MVP, for example, they're warning them with enough time to make decisions, to contact people. They're occasionally having them work elsewhere while still under WWE contract. Octagon Jr. loves a twirl, doesn't he? Big on his chocolate. Rickon says Dom got that massive pop at WrestleMania. Yes, he did. And Sean says, I don't think Liv should turn face. She's a good heel. She's a great heel. She's also very popular. And sometimes people are just in a position where it's time for a change. I am wondering how often in AAA someone gets crotched. I'm also not at all surprised at the lack of Del Rio. Oversell. This looks like the finish. This is the finish. This match barely started. If anything, Fiend was over-egging it. That was a very quick match. Liv was going for a kiss there. Yeah, what the hell? Fiend says, I prefer to see the natural evolution of their characters. I think Triple H does a better job of that. We're not throwing people to this, that, or the other alignment. They're taking their time with it rightly. Martin says, I love doing this while learning. Takes me back 3 years now when we used to say lurking. Lurking was a thing. Devil says, what a waste of a match. Bailey saying time filler. Cal calls the match pointless. Sai gives it a 6. I personally would give it a 5. Slap bang in the middle. It happened. Ishi, thank you very kindly for a very generous donation. Says, keep up the work. GOAT, my number one source. I'm a Tom Colohue guy all the way. And gives a very generous £10 donation. Please everyone remember to hit like on that donation to show your support to Ishi for it. That is, of course, 10 squats. 10 squats. That's the deal. And you know what? I'm happy with that because that's what we do now. You know what? I also love that Chad Gable is repping his boy El Grande Americano. Really putting the guy over. Gotta respect it. Game recognizes game. 10 squats. We're going to quick fire this. Because it's only 10. I haven't done a lot recently. And my knees aren't going to be that bad. No, they're bad. They're not that bad. They're okay. They're okay. For those who aren't aware, I recently did 275 squats. Not in a single sitting. I spread it out over 3 days. But all of that is on video and available, currently unlisted, but it will be a members only video by the end of the week. 10 squats. Thank you very much, Ishi. I appreciate your continued support. You laid down that challenge and absolutely nailed it. Thank you kindly. But yeah, if anyone wants to see my life flash before my eyes, my soul leave my body, yeah, 275 squats will do that to you. Kevin says, remember Indy Hartwell already won like 3 championships. She continues to bet on herself. WWE are not the end of the world. They're not. Especially with the rise of a TNA, the rise of an AEW. They've got options. Bailey says, do we see Liv turning on Dom at some point? Yeah, but only because there will eventually be a point where they just don't help each other anymore. Joey says, wow, that was so quick. Fiend says that should have went longer. Joey says they barely got off the ground. Fiend's a fan of Octagon Jr. Joey says should have just left it off the card. Cal gives it a 2. Ishii says, quite rightly, Tom, I told you don't get your hopes up. I mean, that is a man right there, Ishii, who puts his money where his mouth is. So I respect you for that. Thank you kindly. Rick answers a sponsored ladder table. What's next? A chair? Fiend also laughing at the sponsored ladder. Sean says, are you interested in seeing the new Superman movie or the new Fantastic Four movie? Probably at some point. I like the look of this particular new Superman movie. It just looks like they're trying to do something different with it for once. No, Cal, did not see that. Marcel gives it a 3. Mike Brown says, I have to admit Dom is really getting better. Glad he has a new playbook. Finally. Martin says, always time for a quickie? There is. There is always time. Much like there's always time for lubricant. Cal says, Cole has a history of concussion issues. To do that move to him was wild. I'll have to look at that and actually work out what's going on. Bailey says, coming soon, sponsorships on wrestler gear. Yeah, so there was talk at some point about Kevin Owens getting sponsors on his shorts. CM Punk has wanted sponsors on his shorts for a while now. Carl, I haven't watched any Ncuti Ngatwa Doctor Who. I watched until the final season of Jodie Whittaker. I tend to watch after the fact. It just suits what I'm looking for. So when Whittaker was Doctor, I was watching Peter Capaldi. The only one I really watched live was Matt Smith, and then he went to America and I just lost interest. Guns? What's going on there? So what's next? Is it going to be the men's or is it going to be Becky Lynch versus Lyra? Fair play, Cal. I thought he was going to be good. And obviously I'll reserve judgment until I've watched it myself. There are elements I really liked of Jodie Whittaker, and there are episodes which I've really loved of Peter Capaldi, but I think the last Doctor I really enjoyed was Matt Smith. Martin says, I remember CM Punk kicking off over Brock's shorts 12 years ago. How times changed. Indeed, you're not wrong. Sean says, imagine Becky losing a third time to Lyra. Not going to happen. I'm confident tonight Becky takes the championship just because, well, that's the only way to get a third match. It's all about the Bailey. You can't call two favourites, Cal. Come on, mate. Come on, mate. Okay, I'm liking this hype package so far. No promos, and then they have to ruin it by adding Michael Cole's voice. Just show me the war. That's all I really care about. Do something unique. Do something different. Do something extra. You don't get a lot of extra anymore. I was going to say you don't get a lot of Becky losing her temper anymore, but that's kind of all you get now. This is who Becky Lynch is, apparently. We're back up to 9,900. Martin says, off to the gym soon. We'll listen while doing exercise. Over 2 stone lost. Man on a mission. Damn right, mate. Well done, you. That's a hell of an achievement. You always seem like a bit of a night owl. Are you just not a morning person? Is that what I'm looking at here? Yeah, that's a hell of an achievement, mate. I'm working on my fitness myself. The squats are genuinely helping, just to be clear. Also, the punch bag's helping. For those not aware, that's a punch bag. Which I use on a daily basis, and it's definitely very good cardio. I used to go to a gym and almost exclusively warm up on punch bags, And then I realised that instead of a gym membership, I could just buy a punch bag. Bailey says, a question I got in too late for spoiler warning. What happened to the former WWE announcement of a PLE deal with Manchester? Oh, yes. This was a negotiation with Manchester City. It was not necessarily a deal for so many PLEs. It was a deal which essentially allowed first refusal of shows in the UK to stadiums, arenas run by Manchester City. As Manchester City are currently under an investigation, WWE are a little careful at the moment, so things have slowed down. Yeah, it's a good question. I appreciate you bringing that up. Cal says, I need to lose weight, but cheese pizzas derail any success. Oh, mate, I'm with you. I am a sucker for a Domino's Sizzler. And it does not feel good the next day. Tell you that. Does not. But it feels so good during the day. Sean says, to be honest, I think Becky has been boring as a heel. She didn't change up anything about her and she hasn't really been all that interesting to me. I think WWE is struggling with heels in general. A lot of the bad guys are just stale and stereotypical. It's why Dominik's being so loved at the moment. But we saw a really exciting moment for Naomi when she turned heel, and she's just had a big moment with the briefcase. But her heel turn has been, I hate you. Cool. Anything else? No, that's kind of it. Not great. Fair enough, Martin. I appreciate that clarification. Very sorry to hear about it. Carl says, to be fair, WWE have slowed things down with City. Yes, they have. Martin says, still in... Gotcha. Yeah, little additional information. No, absolutely, mate. You know your stuff. So a little additional information as regards the deal I'm talking about from Martin there. We did actually do a show on it, myself and Martin, on his channel, where we discussed exactly what was going on there. I really enjoyed that show. I was really happy with what we were able to make happen. So yeah, for more information, check out his channel. And if you're a Man City fan, yeah, his channel's probably the best place to check out. Hell, a football fan in general. Man's just good crack. Cal says, I don't think Becky suits a heel. Well, I mean, the man originally was supposed to be a heel. WWE fans just decided, nah. Martin says, negotiating is ongoing. Stadium expansion slowed it. Cal says, to be fair, because there's no kayfabe, there isn't heels anymore. Yeah, kind of true. They are sort of relearning how to be heels again. John says, I figured Becky would go back to being big-time Bex when she turned. Not in your life. Oh, Cal picking a fight. No, Martin, what link you... Yeah, tell you what, I will temporarily make you a mod. At which point, you should be able to... You should then be able to put a link in, and then I'm going to remove the mod because, like, I don't actually need mods. Fiend says, isn't she basically big time Bex? Yeah. That's all it is. That's all it is. A decent response for Lyra. Nothing groundbreaking. I think she's done well out of this feud. I don't know where she goes next. People do pop for the entrance though, which I like. Cheers, Martin. Cal says City's been spending more money like Prime Alberto Del Rio did on cars. Yeah, City like to spend. I mean, they're already signing some new players again. Though, as a Liverpool fan, I really can't say anything about transfer fees anymore. Guys, I'm so excited. But I'll try and keep it to wrestling so people don't get bored as I basically cream my jeans over a football player. Lovely, thank you kindly, Martin. Details there for anyone who wants to check it out. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove the moderation again. Thank you very much, Martin. I appreciate how understanding you are, mate. That was a lovely, smooth process with no egos involved, where we both helped each other out, potentially helped anyone who does want to check that out. I'm just very happy with that exchange. Becky Lynch and Lyra picking a fight. This does need to be physical. This is their third match. And Lyra needs to get something out of this. Good takedown. I do like her hip toss. Hip toss? Isn't just a hip toss, it's actually a judo throw. Sai says Lyra looks nervous as hell here, suggesting this will be the end of her championship reign. She's not been bad for it, but I would say Becky Lynch is the only real time when she's looked like a serious contender. She's getting the ref to fix her outfit there. She's had a few problems with her outfits, Lyra, hasn't she? Cal says, my club has spent £0 this summer. We're going to spend 45 million last summer, but yeah, let's move on to Lyra versus Becky. Cal says, hopefully this match is good. The one at Backlash was boring. Nothing really jumps out as memorable from the last match. And if it had Becky Lynch in it, it really needs to be. Cal says the US women's title is unbelievably boring in my opinion. It is still Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green and just refreshing that. It was exciting for a moment because Alexa Bliss looked like she might be involved and then she wasn't. Giulia could certainly add a lot to it if she goes that way, as it seems like it will. What has she got written on the top? The tempo of this match is way higher. There's a proper fight feel for it. There's just a lot written on that top. I'd imagine it's all on X. I feel like I'm eventually going to completely forget that Dominik Mysterio wrestled here, and by eventually, I mean in like 20 minutes. Match is starting to slow down a bit now. Becky in the ascendancy, standard heel stuff. Nothing groundbreaking. Why would it be? WWE know what they're doing. How do you make a heel look tough? Just have them beat the guy up, that's all it really is. Sean says, I think Becky's wearing the gear she wore against Tiffany at No Mercy. Cal says, why has Becky got bin bags for pants? Sean says, looks like those seats are filled now. Good, good. Looks like there might have just been some issues in LA preventing people from getting there. Again, they're bringing the tempo back up again. I feel like they've been told they haven't got long because the main event's just going to take a long time. So they've got to make it count. Or maybe Lyra's just fired up. Maybe that's the intention. I don't know. Too many options. Cal says, we need a Scouse wrestler. I mean, I know plenty of them, just not in the WWE. Even the pinfall attempts are rapid. Is this just a way to pop the crowd? Dunno. Sai says, whatever Becky's wearing on her top, they do not want to focus on it. No, makes me suspect there might be some swear words in there. You know how people aren't allowed to swear anymore? Cal says, I don't think they'll keep letting Cena have the last spot on SmackDown. He's always going over time. It's not necessarily just Cena, but I do think he went over because he was dealing with the R-Truth chant and he dealt with them very, very well, considering the situation was entirely ad-libbed. He saw an opportunity and he took it. Bailey says, if the women's Money in the Bank match went long, the next two may be shortened as a result. Possibly, but there's no real time limit on WWE PLEs. There's no need to rush anything. they go as long as they go. It's like was mentioned, the show started at 4 p.m. Local time. They don't need to be finished by 7. They could be finished by 8. They could take their time. Carl says, what is the point of Jey in that match? Wasn't allowed to talk on the mic either on SmackDown other than saying yeet. It was about Cena. The reason Jey's there is to try and put the guy over before he loses the championship. To try and make him look like a fighting champion. Carl says, I think the Cena match will be last. That's what I expect as well. I mean, both world champions are in it. If they're not main eventing, then what's the point? Though I do think it creates opportunity for Seth. If, of course, Seth does win the men's Money in the Bank, as I hope and expect he will. I'm also very happy with the fact that I said during the PLE Wednesday video last Wednesday about an intended stare down between the Seth Rollins faction and the Bloodline. And then what do we see opening SmackDown? In what I think was a great segment, pardon me, that exact stare down. Fiend says, if men's Money in the Bank was main eventing, then Roman is 100% returning. I mean, Cal, it might not be Jey. Cal says, Jacob surely has to cost Solo. Very possible. Like, their feud is definitely coming. And it looks like it'll be over the US Championship. But I don't think that happens until after we've seen Fatu versus Priest. And then Fatu versus McIntyre. Because I think there's a strong chance that Solo actually wins it. Gotcha, Pete. I like how you phrase that, mate. Bailey says, the broadcast noted today is a 28th anniversary of Michael Cole's first show. WWE is not ready for his eventual retirement. They're genuinely not. Who replaces Michael Cole? I don't think there's anyone of his level in the WWE. Certainly not with the level of respect. They're trying to create people, and those people don't necessarily want to be there. Corey Graves, what's going on there? Lovely superplex. Lyra trying to keep the tempo going. Fisherman suplex. Lovely. Fiend says, Elden Ring being the center logo is cool. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly going to get the advertising they're looking for. There is a crossover. That was a very nice move. There is a crossover between wrestling fans and gaming fans. It's not as big as AEW for, but it is there. Andrew said, if someone cashes in tonight, what do you think that means for the world title match tomorrow? Rollins versus Gunter? Yeah, that's exactly what I think will happen. Which I think sets up for Bron Breakker versus Gunter, which I'm excited about. Fiend says, who replaces Michael Cole? Who's the one guy from NXT? Booker T is not replacing Michael Cole. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Cal says, imagine Seth cashes in on Cena. Rock admits he didn't want Cena, but turning Cena heel and owning him was worth the time. I mean, that'd be embarrassing for Cena, which could work. Oh, okay, Fiend. I can see what you're saying. Big Joseph, good shout. No, Sean, I was taking the piss. I didn't think for a moment that he actually meant Booker T. Pete still thinks El Grande Americano is Kurt Angle. I mean, he won a gold medal at the Olympics with a broken freaking neck. He could certainly come back and make some waves. Oh, that is a lovely submission. Lyra literally just stamping on her head. I love what is happening right now. The crowd are popping for it too. Valkyria as a submission wrestler is something I could get behind. Match has been good so far. The tempo's calmed down a little bit, but I like how intense it started. Lyra's definitely been good for her part as well. Carl says, why are people saying El Grande and Gable the same? One has a mask, the other doesn't. Yeah, one of them also, to be fair, uses a lot of metal. Just, Chad Gable's not that dirty. Sean says, I'd like to see Lyra as a heel. I think that day will come, but I think it's still too early in her career to really commit to that level. She's doing well so far, and I certainly wouldn't want to upset the rhythm just yet. Becky calling that one a bit loud. Fiend says, Lyra has the best gears. I like the colours she uses. And Cal says, Grande loves hard things. Don't we all? Don't we all? Doing something with the belt there. Ooh, Bailey says Lyra as a heel would go to the Dark Wings. Now I can see where you're coming from. Lovely leg drop and a whole rollover. Christopher Leclerc needs Bailey back. Not long now. Not long now. Cal says that was a good move. I think they're both doing good work here. This is a good match so far. Bit of a flying nothing. And then an aggressively sexy pin. They've got a We Want Truth sign on the hard cam. I'd imagine that's going to be confiscated. Cal says it's much better than their last. I agree. I think maybe they've heard the feedback and they're reacting to it really well. The crowd are giving them a lot here. Oh, true. Fiend says the Van Daminator. A We Want Truth chant. This match was going so well and the crowd have basically just said, I'm not interested in this. Not sure, Sean. That was an NXT match. I've never actually seen it. I mostly know it happened because of my boy Ed. Tells me everything that goes on in NXT. Check out his post show for more. There's going to be reason to. Okay, we're doing some top rope stuff. Well, we're doing some middle rope stuff. We're doing some WWE rope stuff. We've abandoned the 7-Eleven rope, but we're not quite as big as a prime rope. Oh, that'll be that. Oh, okay. Becky's really trying to put her over. Elevated finisher, and she didn't exactly mess around. She went straight into the pin. There is no way she did that without Becky's permission. I very much expected that to be the finish. Fiend says WWE kind of deserves the backlash for truth. I think the fans can pick their moments better. Kel says Becky and Seth deserve jail for their fashion. P says you think Becky has borrowed Seth's trousers. Oh no. Most of Seth's fashion is Becky Lynch's fault. She just always found that very funny. Oh, good sell from Lyra. Joey says the R-Truth chants are getting annoying. Becky doing some serious damage here. Okay, can we not go to a count out? Okay, we're not going to a count out. Oh, okay, but that created an opportunity. That's a good little combination. I don't want to go to a double count out, but if we do, that was a good way to do it. Cal says, I think WWE are right to release truth, and also says for how long this is going, I suspect we'll see Bailey. Hasn't gone that long just yet. Oh, that... Diving up out of nowhere, don't love it, especially when you consider if Lyra had stayed down, she'd keep her championship and Becky couldn't challenge for it anymore. Like, even though she won, she didn't come away with the belt. Cal says that went over 10. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. As regards Bayley, I'm not sure what happens here. I remain confident we're going to see Becky versus Bayley at SummerSlam. Makes the most sense to me. But we need the championship to change hands first. Definitely feel like we're entering the end game here. At first, I thought this match was going to be incredibly short. That's why the tempo was high. But I just think it's a good match. Fiend disagrees, believes the WWE were not right to release Truth. So we have some disagreeing opinions here. Lot going on here. And that's with the tights, that's a win. I don't think they were ever going to give us a camera angle with the tights there. Kind of awkward. Becky has indeed come away with the title, and you know what? I liked that match. I liked that finish. I like everything that happened there. That really put over Lyra Valkyria. I do think there's going to be one more match, but Becky will come away with a win again. They've got a storyline afterwards in that Becky's going to have a hand raised by Lyra. That was solid. I'll give that a 9. Genuinely really enjoyed that. Love the early tempo with a big moment with a kick out as well. And I like that in the end it wasn't so much out wrestled as just out fought. Fiend says that match is what I call real graps. Carl says good match, 7 out of 10. P says only in WWE can a 10 count take longer than Roman's walk. Sai gives the match a 7. A 7. Marcel gives it a 7.5. Fiend says great match, 8 out of 10. Sean says, do you see the rematch at Evolution? I think that's the most likely time, yeah. If there's going to be a third match, I don't expect we'll see Bayley here. I think we'd then see Bayley at the third match. But Lyra has a moment of embarrassment here. Punch her in face. Punch her in face. Pete gives the match a 7 out of 10. We'll see if it gets physical. Still could, but I think Lyra needs to punch her in the face. That makes the most sense to me. Lay her out and walk away. Two matches left. I was about to say I think it's been good money so far for both matches, and then I remembered there's been a third match. Lyra's playing along, giving Becky what she wants. Just... There we go. So we didn't end up with a punch in the face, but I like what we got. I think the fans supported that. Fans are very much behind it. And it looks like I've had a brief freeze, so bear with me while I bring that back. I'm still live, just messages weren't quite filtering through. Lyra looked good there. And I think that was the main thing, that was the key fact that we're looking at. That's what the WWE were most interested in. Lyra looked good there. It's all that really matters. So we should be going next into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Makes the most sense to me. We still have a Seth, we have a Solo, we have plenty of others involved. Oh, he was trying to force an update, that's what he was trying to do. That's cool. because I know that it still works, even if, for example, it briefly scares me when it freezes. I can see there's still messages coming through on the streaming software, so it won't take me a minute to get back to where I was. Well, to be fair, we're just getting an ad for Saudi Arabia. Yay. For those not aware, I will not be covering any shows in Saudi Arabia. It's just not my jam. Just not my jam. Cal says, one more match it is. Bailey says, 7 out of 10 didn't need the end. So I said they're giving Lyra some layers, and I appreciate that. More to her than feathers. Fiend says, we still don't have the 5th member of this DLC, by the way. By DLC, do you mean Elden Ring? Joey says, I thought Bailey was coming out. I didn't really expect that. I think we'll see Bailey after the final match, and I think there's going to be one more. Joey says, how long are they holding off for her return? Again, I think it'll be SummerSlam that she returns in-ring to wrestle Becky. So the PLE before SummerSlam is when I expect to see her appear. Evolution makes sense to me. We have some names and we have an unhappy child. Kourtney Kardashian's just going to have to mother right now. Oh God, I remember those. I had some of the Mattel figures and a ring. I didn't have the whole crane thing. You can tell that Wade Barrett is actually genuinely enjoying the work of Pat McAfee. I think he might be the only one. But hey, Pat McAfee. For kids. Eric says, where do you think Lyra goes from here? I hope she gets a world title soon. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think she has one more match with Becky. And then unfortunately, she fades a little bit into the background while they try and work out her next move. Cal says Wade was loving that. Okay, so WWE now confirming the main event will be the tag team match. We're heading into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I do think this show might actually end on a good time. I don't want to jinx it. I might have already jinxed it. Cal says, just a shame Pat's political views aren't as cool. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I try not to be political here per se, because everyone's entitled to their views. But for those who don't know, I am left-leaning, kind of a socialist, and a voter for Labour in the UK or Democrats in the US. Essentially, I don't like debt, and I like to be able to afford things. So rampant capitalism, it's not for me. That's as far as I go in my experience. Joey says, I hope the WrestleVotes report isn't true of Solo winning. Let's find that report, shall we? See what's going on. WrestleVotes, Solo Sikoa, Money in the Bank. Oh, here we go. WWE Money in the Bank favourites reportedly revealed. Oh, that's terrible. So WrestleVotes have reported that multiple people could win Money in the Bank. WrestleVotes have reported who the 2 favourites are for each match. That's not a report. That's just drawing your attention. Eric says, if Bailey is good to go, then why are they not using her? So that Lyra Valkyria can get a moment in the spotlight. Devil says LA Knight for the win. Wouldn't be opposed to Seth winning, but would like some sort of Punk or Roman interference that screws Seth. Fiend says Lyra will probably be in the world title scene, but won't win it until next year. Cal says no way they bring Roman back on a co-main event, which I think is fair. Sean says, why can't the namesake match main event the namesake PLE? Because they're trying to get Jey Uso in main events. Cal says, I vote Labour too. Great result on Friday for us in Scotland. Yeah, I didn't expect that one. I really didn't. I thought he was going reform. Joey says, I've heard Keir Starmer has been disappointing so far. Again, I don't want to go too into politics, but it's kind of intentional. In my experience, the entire point of Keir Starmer's Labour Party right now is to make people stop looking at Ed Miliband. So Ed Miliband is the guy in charge of GB Energy. He's the one essentially transforming the country into an energy superpower. And that's the way they're planning to bring down bills and also increase the economy by building offshore wind turbine plants that they can then sell that energy to countries like Germany and Europe in general. So they're doing the really unpopular stuff now so that in the final year before the general election, they can then bring all the prices down and say, hey, we're going to keep going. And that's all on the shoulders of Ed Miliband. It's why we're seeing reform really targeting the energy sector. Net zero's this, net zero's that. No, net zero is the future of this country. And it's going to be our biggest growth sector for generations. So it is a bit of cloak and dagger. But yes, we're heading into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. 6 people, bit of carnage. Hopefully it should be good. I think this will probably be better than the women's. I think we missed a couple of viral moments. Pete says, I think out of the 6 contenders, there will be one winner. What a report, Pete, giving us the in the know right there. Right there. Sean says, we don't want shows going too long, Tom. Remember Mania 35 lasted until midnight. That was 6 years ago, though. Like, I think with the 2-night WrestleManias, WWE have actually learned their lesson there. Seth Rollins is first out. What I'm interested to see is whether or not we see his backup. What an outfit. Can I just say, and I've said it before, Seth Rollins is one of the only people on the men's roster who consistently makes an effort with his outfits. Consistently switches up his attire and makes himself visually interesting. Now, even if, as Cal rightly says, we spend most of our time essentially saying, what the hell is that? The man makes himself striking. He makes himself stand out. Whereas a lot of the men just don't even try. Joey says, do you think this tag match is going to be like the Bloodline one from 2 years ago? As in take forever? Yeah, probably. Not be very exciting? Definitely. Pete with his finger on the pulse. The man knows his stuff. He's on the inside. Looking out. See, this is why I love these shows. When spoiler warning's on, I've got to talk fast. I've got to cover a lot of chat. I've got to get through a lot of news. Show like this, I can take my time. I can relax. I can briefly veer off into politics. I can talk dumb jokes. I can just enjoy it. I don't know. I like the variation. Spoiler warning is definitely the flagship show. But I've been thinking for a while maybe get into the political sphere a bit. We've got some very talented people here who know their stuff. And I think I could... I've had a lot of compliments here from the way that I lay things out and the way that I simplify things. The way that I can take an intense wrestling storyline and basically break down, this is what's actually happening. This is why you should be worried. This is why you shouldn't be worried. I think I could potentially do that on the political sphere as well. Make people realise what's actually important. Sean says, I've been seeing fans want Seth's theme change since he's a heel now. Nah. Seth versus Penta just sounds like a fun concept. Carl, I was indeed aware of that. Fiend says Seth's gear is heat. And Carl says, I'd like a Tom political channel. I think me and you have very similar views. It certainly sounds like it at the moment, yes. I do feel like Penta is very different in WWE than he was in AEW, or in fact anywhere else. I just feel like the dark elements have completely vanished. Fiend says loud for Penta. Very popular figure. Front stage and back. Cal just says Penta is so cool. Sai says this is so clearly Seth winning that it can't be Seth. So they'll swerve us and it'll be Seth. I love how you laid that out. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely right as well. We're all so expecting that it's Seth that it actually ends up having to be Seth. Sean says, who do you see eventually dethroning Trick Williams? I don't really know enough about that particular roster to speculate. Fiend says, Penta will arrive in 2K25 next month, and I can't wait. The creator wrestler options should massively improve with the arrival of Penta as well, to be fair. More face paint options, more mask options. Joey says they want Penta to be a superhero babyface in WWE. I don't think they want that per se. I think that's just what's ended up happening. They didn't really introduce him with that much personality. They just introduced him as a spectacle, at least at first. Carl says, I do feel bad for Gable, though, because every time he wrestles Penta, it's like Penta wants to destroy him. Penta knows how far he can push people. Oh. I love how they display El Grande Americano. It's very Nacho Libre. They've really lent into that. Ah, lovely. Sai says, I see Seth walking out of Raw as champ. Personally, I think there's a chance it happens tonight. And to be clear, it's not me reporting anything. This is me thinking, wouldn't it be cool if it happens tonight? Carl says, I'm in a Discord with a guy who is on Mattel's team to make the Wyatt Six figures. They expect them to sell out pretty much straight away. Not a surprise. Not a surprise. And Fiend says, I'll be downloading a lot of custom attires for him. Sadly, 2K kind of limit masked wrestlers. You can't put past game attires on Ray like his mask, which sucks. Yeah, that sucks. Cal says, Phoenix not being there has helped both of them. I agree with that. Although Phoenix hasn't really found much momentum in WWE just yet. Joey says, I like how Gable can change his wrestling styles. His high-flying work is really underrated. I absolutely agree with that. I am wondering why we're discussing Chad Gable, though. Weird. Fiend says, my favourite Penta moment is when he and Roman briefly turned up. Kel says, Tom gives an opinion, the haters tomorrow. How dare Tom report this? Yeah, I've had years of that, mate. Years of it. I've spent the last 5 years with certain journalists calling me a fraud and proving them wrong week in, week out. And yet it still happens. But people do not learn. Devil says, I don't think they should have announced Jey versus Gunter a week in advance right before Money in the Bank, as it basically confirms a cash-in is happening. Does it? I would say the exact opposite. I would say the fact that they announced it is a smokescreen to hide the fact that a cash-in is happening. Cal says, when Jey loses a belt, I want to see the Usos reunite. I think Jimmy is struggling on his own. I would agree with that. I think Solo's trying to help him, but he's not really succeeding. Jimmy only really gets a pop when he's with Jey, and unfortunately that's been historically the case. Cal says, how dare you give your predictions on a prediction video? Joey says, that mask looked brutal to wrestle in. Do you mean the Andrade one? Because he is not wrestling in that. Oh, they're doing some advertising, but they've gone quiet. I think in UK they've muted him. Fiend says, is Gunter going to be screwed by Seth's faction unless he ends up on the side with Jey Uso to fight a common enemy? Probably not. Probably not. Cal says, I don't think Jimmy works without the bloodline. I would, and I hate to say this, I think Sammy struggled since leaving the bloodline. I think he struggled. Cal says, I feel like we've seen Andrade wrestle twice in about 100 years. Yeah, he had a big return at the Royal Rumble. He had a big match at WrestleMania that year. And then he's just sort of been there. Solo Sikoa also with no backup. But he's really angry at his towel. Giving me Taz vibes today. Fiend says, I'm tempted to start collecting WWE figures again. Do it, man. Do it. Sean says, every time I see Andrade with that black mask, I'm tempted to call Batman. I like what you're going for. Sai says, I forget the rules. Can the Money in the Bank winner just ask for a match, or do they have to intervene in an existing one? They can just ask. They can absolutely just ask for a match. Think back to Rob Van Dam versus John Cena. You can just ask for it. Joey says, do you think KO getting injured screwed up Sammy's creative? No, they were on different brands at the time. Unrelated. Cal says, surely Jacob turns on Solo. Makes no sense for Jacob to not attack him. I think it's too early. I think Jacob picks his moment. Joey says it felt like they were going to have a long feud after the Chamber. Fiend says, Andrade and Carmelo kind of got effed over by the random decision to put the US title on Nakamura. Yeah, they were building towards something there. And I feel like they were trying to convince Nakamura to come down on his request for a contract. Just to basically, hey, we'll pay you less money, but you might get a championship run. It just didn't feel right. Devil says, I'm going to delude myself into thinking we're going to be swerved and LA Knight gets his moment with Seth being screwed. I'm glad you accept it's delusional. Fiend says, I want a babyface Money in the Bank winner at some point who pulls an RVD or Cena and announces they're cashing. Joey says, Solo's faction is pretty much ex-New Japan guys. Yep, the only exception is Fatu. Cal says, I think John Cena did the same. He announced when he was going to cash in. Yeah, I believe that's the case. That's when The Rock was involved. Cal says, I do think if LA Knight doesn't win today, I will never see him with the main belt. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see him with the main belt anyway. Seth Rollins is about to have the crap kicked out of him. He did make some enemies on SmackDown. He really did. Fiend says, yep, LA Knight got a major reaction. Bailey says, the crowd popped for LA Knight being from Los Angeles, California. He's from a small town outside Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, kayfabe, innit? Kayfabe. Solo waiting for the right moment to attack. El Grande just left the ring. And now it's going to be Solo's turn. I like what's happening here. I like what's happening here. Very real moment. Devil says, what are the chances of El Grande Americano getting unmasked tonight? I think little to none. It doesn't really benefit anyone for him to be unmasked tonight. Whereas if he's unmasked in the future by someone who he's actually feuding with, like a Penta, I can see that. Joey says, I think John Moxley was the last babyface to cash in. I can't remember any others there. But what I will say, that was a great Money in the Bank. We ended the night, over the course of 5 minutes, all 3 members of the Shield were the WWE champion. Good times. Cal says, I don't think the WWE rate LA Knight anymore. Yes and no. He's a reliable hand, but they don't rate him as a main eventer. Fiend says, Solo's getting over his more comedic character. I think he's getting over now that the pressure is off a little bit. People don't actually hate him. He was just getting over-pushed with the championship matches. Sean says, wasn't Braun a face when he cashed in? Hard to say. Was it Drew McIntyre he cashed in on and then just Brock Lesnar got involved? That was awkward for everyone involved. Sean says, I wouldn't mind LA Knight moving to Raw and winning the IC title. Cal says, I believe Penta versus Grande mask for mask match and Penta wins and it won't be Gable. I definitely think when Grande is eventually stripped of the mask, it will not be Chad Gable. They'll do an old switcheroo under the ring. Fair, Cal. Tiffany was kind of a face by the time the cash-in happened. Interesting take, Fiend. I get what you're saying. I think Braun Strowman was it was Roman, wasn't it? I think Braun Strowman was supposed to be heel. But when you attacked Roman in those days, you automatically became a face. And if you remember the tipping of the ambulance, Braun turned face in that moment. WWE didn't want him to. They didn't plan him to, but he did. Bailey says a fake El Grande will be a smaller Creed brother. That's a good shout, actually. And I do just think it'll be some under-the-ring shenanigans. Are they advertising Fireball whiskey? Is Nick Khan watching with his child? It's all very awkward. Fiend says Braun Strowman was kind of justified given Seth and Ambrose stopped Strowman from cashing in. That's a fair shout. But the Shield definitely weren't heels. So Braun would still have been the heel in that moment. Okay, I actually like this. They're showing a lot of personality for Penta because he's just enjoying beating up El Grande. He's just having a very good time. That was a lovely kick. He's just having a great time. Fiend says turning Strowman heel sucked though and it didn't last long. Carl says, have the WWE banished Hogan from showing up since his reaction? Nope. He just isn't showing up because of the reaction. Sean says, I've seen some people speculate that Joe Hendry is El Grande Americano. I mean, he's not American, so it doesn't quite work for me. Brother. Bailey says, the only reason there's a WWE logo on the second turnbuckle is that they didn't sell it before the match. Yeah, pretty much. WWE, they like money. But, as I say, the only time it's really popped up to me, oh, lovely. Lovely. The only time I've really noticed it is that initial, is that 7-Eleven? Or the initial, the Elden Ring. I haven't watched that, Cal, but I've heard good things. Fiend says, never forget when Strowman accidentally kneed Brock and got a receipt punch to the face. It was a Royal Rumble triple threat. And Kane was the third competitor. Brock Lesnar was just on a good streak for Royal Rumble triple threats. And then Braun Strowman happened. Braun Strowman was this close to beating Brock for the WWE Championship, you know. Imagine a world in which that happened. It's not a good world, is it? The crowd are wanting tables. One thing I love about Triple H's booking is that he does have a really diverse group in all the multi-man matches. He's always throwing people in elimination chambers in Money in the Bank matches that you wouldn't necessarily expect. People like Roxanne, I wouldn't have expected her a couple of months ago. People like El Grande Americano. I would never have seen him involved. Like, he's brand new to this company. But he's earned it. And it means you get combinations you would never really expect. Solo Sikoa versus El Grande Americano. Who saw that one coming? Fiend says Lesnar, Kane and Strowman was an absolute train wreck and in a good way. Kane in his prime versus Lesnar would have been good. I mean, I'm pretty sure it would have happened at some point. Solo Sikoa just enjoying himself, which is nice to see. I'm just glad he's having a good time. That probably hurts. Bailey says, is anyone really invested in the main event? Outside of a cash-in, the Cena act is getting stale. Getting? I mean, it was real stale at Mania. That match was terrible. Just real slow, just real dull. Did not love it. Did not love it. I can't say I'm invested in the main event. I'm still going to watch it. Sean says the most recent babyface to successfully cash in their Money in the Bank contract was Big E in 21. Good memory. Cashing on Drew McIntyre. No, he's Bobby Lashley. They actually showed it in the pre-show. But you are right. Big E's definitely the right one. Fiend is getting tired of the "we want tables" chants. Now, you're not in the wrong. You're entitled to your own feelings. But I do feel it's another way in which fans try and sort of take over. And this isn't a takeover. Sean, I'm in agreement, but it was for the big belt. I feel like John Cena can't go anymore. We're seeing a lot of solo in this match. One thing I'm really excited for is if we're going to get a Drew McIntyre Jacob Fatu feud, Andrade just falling. If we're going to get a Drew McIntyre Jacob Fatu US Championship feud, at some point Drew McIntyre is going to do the Glasgow Kiss, which is a headbutt. You don't headbutt Samoans. It's the law. So I just love the idea that he's going to do the Glasgow Kiss and then Drew McIntyre will immediately just keel over. Because you don't headbutt Samoans. Cal says the fact Cena is keeping the same attire makes no sense. Make it with no colour. Everything John Cena is doing right now is with the intention of annoying someone. The fact that you're annoyed by it, that's why he's doing it. Bailey says, what is the reason to have tables stored under a ring to begin with? Primarily for setup. The idea is, and this is how they kayfabe it, when they're first building the ring, they set all of the parts up on the tables. They then use that to build the ring, and then they put back on the tables, push them under, and then when it's time to take the ring down, they pull the tables back out, set them up, and all the parts go on the tables. Interesting, Pete. Joey says, imagine if Tonga Loa returns LA and pushes LA Knight off the ladder. Well, I'm going to imagine that. Oh, that happened. Cool, I'm now done imagining that. Fiend says, it makes me sad to say, but Cena 100% can't go anymore, and it's good that he's wrapping his career up. At least he knows it. He's not like The Undertaker, who just didn't realise it. Sai says, does LA Knight know how dumb he looks reaching for the briefcase when he's about 3 steps up? The man's very traditional. Cal says, I do think Cena retiring is right. He clearly can't go anymore. Pardon me. You like that, Joey? Bailey says, when the legends lose their step, it's really noticeable. Late stage Undertaker was tough to watch. You are not wrong on that one. It was not an easy viewer. I got real uncomfortable with some of the matches. I thankfully didn't watch the Saudi one. Solo stomped. That'll put him out for a bit. Fiend says it's a bitter pill to swallow. Undertaker loved being a wrestler, so does Cena, so it's not easy to come to that conclusion. Cal says, I disagree respectfully with you there, Tom. I think Taker knew he was the one. But with chasing that last classic, he wanted to go out like Flair in 2008. Just forget the TNA Flair. We always need to forget the rest of Ric Flair's career. Okay, so Fiend, I want to dive on this one because here's the thing. I always felt that Undertaker versus Roman Reigns was intentionally poor, and bear with me here because it was WrestleMania 33. Particularly the moment when The Undertaker struggled to do his sit-up. I thought that was intentional. I thought as the match went on, The Undertaker was looking increasingly broken. I thought it was intentional. I thought that was his way of saying goodbye. His way of saying, I literally physically cannot keep going, so I am forced to retire. I thought that was the story. It was kind of beautiful. And yeah, apparently that wasn't the intention, according to the documentary. But when you say Roman should have turned heel, he did. He did. Afterwards, he walked down to the ring, basked in the booze, and said, "This is my yard now." The man turned heel. And then, unfortunately, due to injuries and the like, they needed to turn him face again. He turned heel, actually before that, he turned heel when he entered the Royal Rumble and eliminated The Undertaker. If you see him make his entrance, he's wearing his heel face. And I will never stop talking about that. Never. He was a heel when he entered that Rumble. Bailey says even Chris Jericho is tough to watch now. Cal says, I can't believe Brock broke the streak and now they won't even mention it. It's scary because Goldberg actually could have killed Taker if Taker landed an inch different. Yeah. I watched the highlights of that one because I don't watch Saudi Arabia, but it was something I needed to know about. Very difficult to watch. Fane says, damn it, Seth just took a superplex off the ladder. Man takes bumps. Man takes bumps. P says, I always loved the Flair two-step fall over. I did kind of like what was going on there. Just that showing of, I respect you. You should go for it. I'm going to hurt you. Cal says, I always say it should have been Bray to beat Taker and end the streak. And at the end, the Wyatt family carrying Taker's body out of the arena. That would have been really cool. Undertaker always wanted it to be Brock. He loved Brock Lesnar. And he kind of still does. They were just kindred spirits. Very difficult. Sai, thank you very kindly. A generous donation of £5 Says, you do a great job with these watch-alongs, Tom. Great crowd, chill vibes and real insight. You're going from strength to strength, rewarding to watch. Well, thank you very much for that. I try my best. I'm very, very happy to know... That's not going to work, Andrade. You got to move that ladder. LA Knight, you're not helping the situation. Thank you. I try my best to give some interesting stuff and talk about my experience and that. So it's very rewarding to hear you say that, and I appreciate you for it. Also, though, it does mean 5 squats, because we all know how this works. I promise you squats, and then I'll do the squats. So we've done 10 so far today. Let's do 5 more. Takes up to a nice 15, which is a nice number for it. It means essentially 5 per hour when the show ends, which is not a bad spot to be in. And there is a Mexican destroyer, which I think was supposed to put the ladder through, but it didn't quite go. I knew Penta was going to get a viral moment. Oh, you can see on Penta's face. You can see on Penta's face he was disappointed that did not go through. He was disappointed. Thank you very kindly, Sai. I appreciate you for the kind words and the generous donation. Thank you. Cal says, do you think we'll ever know what Taker said to Bray in 2023? No. No, I think it was extremely personal. Fiend says, it sucks that Brock's reputation is tarnished by association, but if it's all true, then Brock can stay gone, which I think is the right approach to it. Sean says, I still say to this day, John Cena should have been Kurt Angle's final opponent. At that stage of his career, and you guys are going to need to react a bit less than you're going to want to here, Kurt Angle couldn't have had a good match with anyone. He was paired with Baron Corbin, one, for the future of Baron Corbin's career, but also because Baron Corbin was the only person they trusted, given the fragility of Kurt Angle, to not kill the man. It's awkward to say. That is reality. Bailey says, do you ever see the UK adopting the Euro? No, there's a reason Brexit happened. Fiend says Cena wasn't on the table for WrestleMania 35. He appeared, but he couldn't wrestle for whatever reason. Yeah, insurance. Carl says, to be fair, if Bray never got those losses, we wouldn't have got The Fiend. The The Fiend was good shit. Just a shame how it ended. How it all ended, really. Bray had some very, very good, intriguing moments. They just never had his back. Yeah, thank you for the clarification there. Fiend, I think you're right. It was Fast and Furious 9. Carl says, I don't think Kurt's body could do it. Watch Raw. Watch the Raw match between Joe and Kurt. Every move has Kurt in pain. Corbin was the safest wrestler in WWE at the time, which is accurate. It's why Corbin was the one trusted with the first serious bump to Edge in the Royal Rumble. Baron Corbin got opportunities because he protected his fellows. He got amazing respect from everyone in the locker room because of that. El Grande getting his moment. Seth taking a nice beating here. Hey, you're welcome to, Fiend. I'm not a Vince McMahon guy. You ain't ever going to upset me. Seth trying to make something happen here. Feel like we're going to do some wrestling. When El Grande turns up, I just feel like wrestling's actually going to happen. I like what Wade Barrett's doing. I support it. Bailey says, if R-Truth ends up in TNA, wait until he runs into all those WWE talents and says, aren't you Elias? Or it's Dolph Ziggler. I don't think he's legally allowed to say certain names. But I also think it would still be fun. Might be worth the lawsuit. Carl says, like Becky says, she didn't feel anything when Corbin landed the move on her. She said it was like falling on pillows. Oh, the sponsored ladder. And yes, Becky Lynch was fully protected. It's one of the many reasons why Baron Corbin was always trusted with the big moments like that. There was talk for a while of Baron Corbin hitting an end of days on Vince McMahon. That's how trusted we're talking here. Fiend says, it's literally hilarious to me that there are people who want Vince McMahon to buy WWE back and fire Triple H. Yeah, I wouldn't call it hilarious. I would call those people dangerous. Cal says, why don't people know Kurt was in TNA longer than WWE? Because by and large, they don't want to know that. They just want to know the Kurt Angle that they know. Sean says, who would you say is the safest woman on the roster? Charlotte. It's Charlotte. There are some very safe women, but when it comes to actually looking like they're creating dangerous situations, it's all Charlotte. I remember Kairi Sane being very hurt in a tag team ladder match. Becky and Charlotte on one side, Kairi Sane and Asuka, I want to say, on the other. That was a massive miss on the head, but that was... Oh, okay. No, I love that. I absolutely love that. Penta knocked himself out headbutting El Grande Americano. That was amazing. Yeah, and Charlotte actually caught a lot of flack for powerbombing Kairi Sane after what looked like a concussion through a table. But reality was, Charlotte realised during the powerbomb attempt and then ensured that when Kairi dropped, she was dropping safe and was eliminated from the match. She played it beautifully. And fans hated her for it. But Charlotte is probably the safest woman on the roster. Cal says, Nia Jax has got so much better, in my opinion, in the ring. Props to her. Also says, I think if someone wants Vince back, they don't respect women. Yeah, we're talking red pills right there. Cal says, Kurt's TNA run is the best wrestler of all time. His work with AJ Styles is certainly worth watching if you haven't. We're seeing something happen on the outside. Oh, El Grande is going to do something fun. Seth steadying the ladder. That was beautiful. Oh, the headbutt as well. He took a step back. to try and react to it. That's giving LA Knight a chance. Oh no, oh no. Oh, that was actually beautifully done. That was beautifully done. I could only see that going badly. It did not. Oh, El Grande gets the most viral moment, I promise you that. A lot of people worked together really well there. LA Knight, Seth Rollins was the pivot for that ladder. Oh, that was a beautiful suplex. I'm just very happy with everything that happened there. Seth could potentially win this, but I can see Andrade stirring on the outside. Andrade is in play. Seth seems like he should have this. This, if anything, is making me believe that he's actually not winning. We haven't seen Solo for a while. There's Solo rolling into the ring. At pace here. It's just going into carnage. Seth is just shouting at people. Oh, he's calling backup. He's calling for backup. You're not exactly moving quickly, guys. This would be a good time for Jacob Fatu. Bronson... No, sorry. Bron Breakker is celebrating a bit too much here. Okay, we're turning into carnage and I'm honestly enjoying it. Sean says, I know you won't agree with a lot of what he says, but Bubba believes CM Punk should end John Cena's reign. I would rather someone who'll benefit from it would end John Cena's reign. CM Punk wouldn't benefit. It would not create a star. He's already a star. Carl says, I think LA Knight's head hit off the ladder. I didn't see that happen. And says, I see Solo doing it. You know, he's not been seen for a while. Sean says, I wonder if people remember that Andrade is a former NXT champion. His match with Johnny Gargano is 5-star for a reason. Fiend said, this is a real damn good match. Carl says, what happens if the briefcase accidentally falls? Well, then Otis is a winner. Also says Braun just killed Grande. Brawny boys are coming, says Fiend. Bailey says, what if Bron Breakker went up the ladder? As someone who is not competing, him holding the briefcase does not end the match. Fiend says Punk wouldn't want to end Cena's career, which is true. And Cal says, surely someone interferes? Yeah. Guys, what did I tell you about factions staring each other down? You should have watched the spoiler video on PLE Wednesdays. Interested to see what Jacob Fatu does here. Because certainly Solo is not exactly his friend at the moment. I love that all hell broke loose. Oh, they're going to war. They're going for it. Note that Bron Breakker and Jacob Fatu have been kept apart here. They've made sure their big guys can look like they're big guys. Oh, you gotta move to the right a bit, Jason. A bit to the right, bit to the. There's a good boy. It's not really through the barricade, guys. Come on. Bailey says, "Is this a rest break for everyone else?" Yeah, pretty much. And Eric says, "El Grande has a mask. How does he know what specific ladder to get?" He believes. He believes. Cal says, "What a spear." Bron Breakker had his big moment. Jacob Fatu is getting his now. Doing his shimmy, is about to do a dive. The equalizers are in play. There's still an opportunity here for Fatu to screw him the hell over. He's in the ring with him. He doesn't have to be. Fiend says, if Solo's bloodline turns face, it might give Jacob the opportunity to go after Cena. I think he'd veer off, personally. Eric says, do you watch MMA too? I do not. They want the sponsored ladder. No, they don't. Okay, fair enough. They just want the taller one. Fiend says he's going to screw Solo. I think he might. I think this is a... Do you guys see the ladder that's set up on the outside? Did you see Jacob Fatu turn the ladder and position it so that if he now pushes the ladder down, Solo's going to go through the ladder on the outside? Oh, that smile. Oh. I've had an emotional reaction to this. Oh no, Cal, they put it in exactly the right position. Oh, Solo's not the one going through that ladder. Oh, look at the relief on his face. He hates him. He hates him. And maybe that ladder was a dummy. It's going to hurt. Paul Heyman is just there like, oh, okay. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I think they get past it. I think Solo apologizes to him. Sean says face turn for Jacob, I assume. Again, I'm not sure. I do think they sort of get past it. With a Damian Priest, with a Drew McIntyre, maybe this is a SummerSlam match and Drew McIntyre comes back a little later. I'm not sure, but we've certainly got a very exciting US title scene all of a sudden. Oh. That ladder was for Solo. Bailey says they still have a match to finish off, of course. Yeah, and to be fair, we've still got a main event to come. I definitely don't think we're seeing Roman. Not after all this. That ladder sort of fell apart easily, didn't it? How many bodies are just laid out across this ring? Well, around the ring, I should say. Across the ring, not so much. Sai says, why wasn't Jacob in the match again? Solo Sikoa? Devil says, okay, delusion over Solo, over Seth's winning. Yeah, if Solo's out of play, and he's definitely out of play, there's only one potential winner. Cal, no it wasn't, because that ladder was supposed to be broken, so they would have gotten rid of that. And Seth's taking the big ladder in. Going to set it up so on the hard cam you can see the word fireball. This is going to end a bit anticlimactic. Eric says, what doesn't Triple H or TKO see in LA Knight that the fans do? He connects well with the fans. It's mostly the match quality. Bailey says, here comes the sponsors ladder. Paul Heyman just looking down at LA Knight there. LA Knight's in the ring. Cal says, if Roman comes a pop, will be scary. I don't see it. LA Knight's just giving Seth an instruction there. Yeah, he just gave Seth an instruction. I still think Seth's winning this, but that feels like a bit of a tease for LA Knight. Just a little bit of a, could he do it? Oh, mate, you've got to be ready for the stomp. You've got to be ready for the stomp. Fiend says, Jey Uso is world champion, so that part is a bit confusing. Yeah, but Seth's the next world heavyweight champion. That should be it. Eric says, Seth doesn't need it. He's already a main eventer. Yes, but this isn't about him. This is about Jey Uso. It's about Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker's the real beneficiary of this. Seth Rollins has indeed won. I think Sai nailed that. It was so obviously Seth that people convinced themselves that it wouldn't be Seth. So WWE managed to swerve people with it being Seth. Yeah. I'm kind of feeling a cash in tonight. Sai's going for a cash in tomorrow, which also makes a lot of sense. I have been told Jay's championship reign is not going to be a long one. Eric says, how does Seth winning help Jey and Bron? It means we get a prolonged feud between Jey Uso and Seth Rollins, one of the biggest names in the industry. It also means a Bron Breakker by association with the World Heavyweight Champion, and potentially in future a feud with Seth Rollins, as essentially that group breaks up. And they also, potentially all of them, could get the rub from The Rock. So Bron Breakker essentially works as a spoiler, preventing people from getting to Seth. In that group, Bron Breakker will be the big winner. Seth is working on the future right now. And while he's going to be the champion, it's the same as Triple H being a champion in Evolution. He was creating the future by doing so. Cal says, I think he cashes in and Roman comes back. I still think it'll be another couple of weeks before we see Roman. Eric says, I should have listened to your bought into LA Knight one last time. It's fair enough, mate. The whole point is they're trying to convince you to believe in people. There's no shame in believing. Like who you like. That's cool. Sai says, I never want to see a sponsored ladder again. We knew no other ladder was getting used to get the briefcase. Yep. Fireball paid through the nose for it, and they got what they wanted. Cal says, the WWE doesn't see what people see in LA Knight. Yep, true. The WWE does not see it. At the top level, they've moved on. Sean says, I think Seth would be the first two-time World Heavyweight Champion under the new World Heavyweight title. Yes, he was after all the inaugural one. So it would make the most sense to me. This leaves us with only one match. They've still got a half hour, but I think we're going a little over 3 hours because, good God, it's Cena and it'll take forever. I don't think this match is going to be particularly exciting. I just don't. Pete says, breaking news from me, whoever wins gets the briefcase. Absolutely nailed it, mate. I could not think of a better report. Cal says, LA Knight had his chance 2 years ago. Joey says, yikes, Seth didn't need the briefcase again. Hector says, evening, Tom. If I'm in the minority with this, but I think Seth didn't need the Money in the Bank. Also wish they wouldn't have shoehorned the Jacob turn on Solo in this match, but fun match regardless. It was a fun match. I rate it quite highly. I really enjoyed elements of Carnage that were in there. I'd give the match an 8 out of 10. Let me know what you thought of that. But I would give that match an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Cal says Seth has all the power now, which he does indeed. Cal says, I said Seth or Andrade, or Penta or Grande, or Solo, or Knight would win. Am I technically right? Oh, absolutely you are. And he gives the match a 9 out of 10. Pete gives an 8 out of 10 as well. Cecil says, good evening, Tom and chat. Just got home from work. Let's go. And Pete says, I'm up there with Meltzer, which, you know what, I'm not going to argue against. Apart from the fact that in order to be up there with Meltzer, what you need to do is get a whole load of things wrong and then blame everyone else for it. I don't make the rules. Kevin says, hey Tom, the couple won tonight, you know? Yeah. Fiend says, wouldn't surprise me if LA Knight ends up leaving WWE and has less than a fond memory of the company, perhaps airing his grievances against the company. I don't see grievances. I don't see grievances at all. I think there's a natural intensity to it, but I can't imagine a world in which he's actually that upset. Oh, okay, they're announcing Vegas. Go to the package. There we go. Yep, looks like they're announcing Vegas. I'm glad I was able to report on this one. It's a fairly big piece of news. This is a big long-term deal. And the April 18th and 19th, so they're going for the extra 2 weeks again. Did not expect that. Jacob Fatu turns on Solo Sikoa during World Air Money in the Bank 2025 match. And now I repeat it. Oh, it recognises Jacob Fatu moonsault. Turns on, that's a P, Solo Sikoa during Air. Oh, Nikki Bella returning. I didn't see any rumours on that. Bank 2025 ladder match. I do like that they just advertise Raw during PLEs now. Joey says, I guess WrestleVotes was right about the winners. Yes, they did basically list the 2 favourites just in case. Also says LA Knight is never going to win the big one. Correct. Bailey gives it a 7 out of 10. Sean says, Tom, did you ever explain why Alexa was removed from Fanatics Fest during Mania Week? She wasn't in town. In the end, because of changes to the card, she was only going to be there to be a spectacle. She wasn't actually going to feature. So she essentially said to the WWE, well, if I'm not needed, why am I there? And they said, you know what? Fair enough. Devil says, I guess Punk's word of not letting Seth win a title as long as he's still alive is going to become a little bit more difficult. There's still time. There's still time. Cecil says, sorry I'm late, but with WWE's new ticket prices, had to get an extra shift. Hector says, Seth is really a faction guy through and through. First the Shield, then him being a part of the Authority. Even when he had Buddy to now the man loves him some factions. Cal saying Mania confirmed for Vegas. Did Vegas pay more than what I have in my piggy bank, Tom? I think they might. Eric says, if the issue of LA is age, Priest is older, still gets booked better. Natty's older, still gets treated better. Natty does not get treated better than LA Knight. That's not true in any way. John says, why not Indianapolis? Aren't they supposed to get a Mania at some point? Money. Bailey says, what about the following year? Is Las Vegas in the deal too? They've not announced or confirmed anything on that yet. Joey says, great, another Vegas show. Cal says, stadium is full. Pete says, Meltzer has told me next year's WrestleMania is in the States. Stunning. D. Freeman says, with Seth winning, does that change your mind on who wins the King of the Ring now? Is it a SmackDown person now? Nope, I still have it as a Raw person. Very much still have it as a Raw person. Cal's got 17p in his piggy bank. Well done, mate. Proud of you. I believe. Bailey says, please, please, no WrestleMania roast. No, that caused problems backstage. That caused serious problems. We had some real unhappy people about that. Fiend says, the new Mania logo is sick. I hate myself for liking it. Don't hate yourself. Don't hate yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in Joe Hendry. My voice is getting a bit strained. Not often I talk for 3 hours anymore. John says, do you see any big names in the King and Queen of the Ring tournament? Yeah, I think you look at Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, people who don't have particular direction right now. Devil says, Tom, would it surprise you if Jey loses the title on Monday to Gunter, then Seth cashes in and becomes champion? Yes. Primarily because you're then adding Gunter to a mix where he doesn't actually need to be that involved. Would really bury Jey Uso. And Seth versus Jey Uso wouldn't need to happen at that point. It's not him you took the championship from. I have enough cherry coke to keep me awake for days. I haven't watched all of it, Hector. I watched some of it. I ran out of time and had to parent. Triple Mania on Peacock is very unlikely. I'd imagine it'll still be primarily YouTube. They were very happy with the numbers. Sean suggests Alexa could be good in Queen of the Ring. D. Freeman says, would it be something if Logan Paul wins tonight, then turns around and wins the King of the Ring because WWE is pushing him as a future champ? I don't think they actually are. I think they're teasing it. But his particular position and the very small number of dates he works means that by and large, he'll never be able to run a top champ schedule. So I think they're teasing it, but I don't think they'd actually go through with it. Cody Rhodes heading down to the ring first. I'd imagine it's going to be about 20 past 3 when the show actually ends. We're going to get at least 10 minutes of intros here. Cal says, are you prepared for your kids' 6-week school holidays? You're going to be a busy dad, Tom. Yeah, so not as busy as I was last year. So for those unaware, I personally moved into this house that I'm in right now, the new house, new office and all that jazz, late June last year. So I'm approaching a full year. Because of situations outside of our control, we were not only very busy, the entire family, we had to make sure the entire family was in this house by early August. So what that means is, in addition to the 6-week holidays, my kids didn't really get one because they had to pack up all their stuff and transfer it and decorate and strip wallpaper and do weeding of the garden. They had to work. Naturally, I did as well, and I was definitely doing amongst the most work, alongside my partner, of course, and friends and family who really pitched in heavy at a time when we needed them. My girls didn't get a break. This year, we're making sure they do. They earned it. That's all there is to it. So I'm not prepared, but I'm going to be. Joey says, does Triple H only view LA Knight as a mid-card guy? Does now. He does, D. Freeman, but that's because they're running his contract down. Sean says, Logan does have a child now, so he probably wants to be home more often. It does feel like he's trying to get all these dates out early. I reckon he'll take a break after SummerSlam. Hector says, I see a lot of people thinking Roman or Punk being the reason Seth has a failed cash-in. But hear me out. Seth is about to cash in. Lights go out, lights come on. Black Mass make that run-in they had matter. I think, to be fair, CM Punk doing to Seth what he did to Drew McIntyre last year, not a winner for me. Too repetitive. Thank you, Cal. Appreciate that, mate. Eric says, Tom, do you think when Seth successfully cashes in on Jey, do you think he immediately goes back to the Usos? Immediately, no. I think there's a one-on-one feud with Seth that's going to result in a lot of matches between Jey and Seth and a lot of good matches. But I do think a return to the Usos is on the horizon. WWE needs tag teams. Fiend says, if Seth loses Money in the Bank, then they need to retire the Money in the Bank concept. Sean wants me to get ready to yeet. I'm not the most yeety of folks. But I have learned from Jey Uso that you can replace anything with yeet. So if, for example, you're going to be sick, you're not going to be sick. You're going to yeet. If you've fallen over while walking down the street and plant your face directly into the pavement, what you've done is you've yeeted yourself. Much like Smurf or, more recently, Squanch. You can add a yeet to anything. I went out, I got totally yeet, and then I yeeted everywhere. You all know exactly what I said. And it wasn't something you can say when there are children present, you know what I mean? Fiend says, Usos reuniting with Roman to fight Rock, Cena, Rollins? I'd like that. Sounds good to me. Bloodline OGs, why not? You've got some top level people who he's not going to sign your hat, kid. He's not going to sign your hat. Who deserve that big moment. Okay, there's nothing less cool than someone calling themselves cool. Wade Barrett, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, I don't want to overreact or anything, but your career should be over. Michael Cole still doesn't know how to yeet. Sean says, you don't miss your old place at all, do you, Tom? I miss my old office because this one, we keep running out of money. I don't know if you guys know this, but kids are expensive. So long term, we've made some big long-term changes, which have been expensive, but have been worth every penny. But it has meant that I've not really been able to finish anything. So the entire house still feels very DIY. Now, I'm starting to accrue again, which means I'll be able to start finishing things. I do miss having a office with a carpet, basically. So yeah, there's a lot at play, but that's what I miss the most. Outside of that, no, and I could not be happier with this house in general, or the people I'm sharing it with. Many of you will have been here before I actually met any of them. Different life. Hector says, El Grande Americano is honestly a pretty cheesy and uncreative character, but he'll never be Mr. America levels of cheesy or bad. Give him time. Give him time. Logan Paul preventing Jey Uso from having his second try. Fiend says, is Jacob Fatu going to be babyface or heel? I think he's going to be cheered. Billy says, will your job ever relocate you? No, I'm contractually work from home. My head office is not even in this country. The only way they could relocate me is if they tried to change the terms of my contract, in which case they're paying me a lot of money and I ain't going nowhere. But I might be on YouTube a lot more all of a sudden. If I'm suddenly back on Colohue Gaming and I'm doing Colohue Politics and I'm launching a football channel, chances are I'm about to lose my job. And I definitely can't do this full time. Don't make enough. So you do what you can. You do what you can. Or maybe I'll just do a lot of squats. Logan Paul showing off of his drone. Although I do think that is a pretty cool way to make an intro video. Like the drone's pretty sweet. Put it on the Prime bottle. That was pretty cool. Fiend says they're showing that those seats got filled. Yeah, I'd imagine social media ripped the hell out of them for that. And they probably deserved it. Which leaves us with one person. We're definitely going beyond 3 hours. Yeah, Kev. Totally my fault, mate. Totally my fault. This is a great opportunity to just beat up Logan Paul before John Cena gets there. Just like really destroy him. Instead, here comes John Cena, devoid of energy, devoid of life, devoid of interest. Why is he even there? Cal says I love Logan coming out when Jey tried to yeet. Classic heel move. I don't like this John Cena character. I don't know where it's going. In fact, I don't think it is going. I don't know. They're just new t-shirt for every occasion. Making his living as best he can. Just selling t-shirts. Pardon me. And saying goodbye. Fiend, I'm going to need more details and a source on that. Fair enough, Cal. Hector says, Tom, I'm curious if money has always been the goal. I wonder why Vince never did similar deals as WWE is doing now, essentially having a bidding war, especially at the height of Vince's success. The main reason for that is that he was paying his wrestlers a hell of a lot less than they're getting paid now. What he would do is just stiff his talent. That can be misconstrued. Cal says, if Cody had turned heel, would Cena have won 17th? No. So says, only Cena could overact walking to the ring. It's fair. John Cena is essentially the Jim Carrey of wrestling. There is only overacting. Cal, you're not wrong. That's the thing that I said. It's also definitely taken more than 10 minutes for everyone to get down to the ring. Just feel like they don't want to be there. I don't want a long contest here. And I'm worried that we're going to get a long contest here. I think we're going to get 30 minutes of John Cena pouting at the camera while Jey Uso lays face down. And that just doesn't sound fun to me. Hopefully I'm wrong. It's not often I say hopefully I'm wrong, but hopefully I'm wrong. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but also I really don't. Oh, Fiend can confirm that he has seen Mama Rock and she sat behind commentary. Interesting. Carl says, Cena looks like me when I order no gherkins on my Mackey's order and it comes with them. Why are you going to have McDonald's and not have gherkins? It's like the best part of McDonald's. It's the only good part. Hector says, my issue with this Cena character is his mission statement is he's going to ruin professional wrestling, but has done nothing to make me believe he's actually doing that. I disagree on the basis that his matches are pretty damn terrible and make me want to not watch wrestling anymore. Bear with me, I'm going to do another sneeze. I'm definitely going to do another sneeze. Here it is. For those not in the know, I used to have a lot of nosebleeds as a kid, so nowadays every sneeze is just aborted. I don't let anything come out. I keep it all inside. Just at the pivotal moment, like the moment of climax, I just say, nah. Does make me feel a bit stiff though. Cal says, I'm not a gherkin man too, overpowering. Fiend says, you didn't like Cena versus Orton at Backlash? I thought that was a pretty good match. Yeah, not really. Both very traditional. I can't remember anything that happened in the match, which is a sign that I did not enjoy it. Kevin says, so far, how is this pay-per-view? Great, good, okay, or not good? I would say the Women's Intercontinental Championship match was a great match. I really enjoyed it. Both of the Money in the Bank matches were good, with the men's being better. And then we had the Dominik Mysterio Octagon Jr match, which apparently also happened. So far, it kind of lives or dies on this. Fiend thinks it's the best PLE post-Mania, but it's only been free, so yeah. Sean says, I wonder if Nikki will have a segment on Raw. Do you mean Nikki Bella, because like she will, or Nikki Cross, because she won't? Cal says, do Lunchables still exist as a kid? I was poor, so we got the alternate to them. They do. They do. Yeah. They're not good. And the Mr. Beast version is worse. Hector says, for conversation's sake, Tom, has any Cena matches ever been that exciting? For the most part, he does his 5 moves of doom and overcomes odds. Never been super excited about many Cena matches. So I'm not a Cena fan. When I came back to wrestling, it was during the height of the Kevin Owens-John Cena feud. When Kevin Owens was just debuting. And I remember being told it was great and watching it and thinking, why? What I would say is that I do feel his feud of AJ Styles was a notable exception. Particularly given that he picked up some big losses there. So I think he has his moments, but I do think by and large, he's an average wrestler. Cal says I wouldn't ever buy anything around Mr. Beast or KSI, and also agrees with me that Cena's matches with AJ are good. Kevin suggests Cena versus Umaga in the Last Man Standing. Steve says, I actually turned the show off. Don't care for this match. We already saw the main event. Fair, I think... Pardon me. The main intrigue here is Seth. He could cash in on Jey tonight. True, Fiend, actually a fair shout. Because it was actual cheese and not the same processed crap in Lunchables, it got mouldy. So people were opening them and just getting mouldy cheese. Ruined the entire thing. Hilarious. Sean says, I'd like to see AJ versus Cena again. You can. All you got to do is check Netflix. Oh look, Jey Uso is getting beaten down for an extended period by John Cena and Logan Paul. How fun. It's almost like he's not the big enough star to really be competitive. You had to do that while I was trying to... God damn you, Jay. Cal says, AJ versus Shinsuke at Mania is probably the most underwhelmed I've ever been for a Mania match. I still think it was a good match, but it didn't live up to the dream match hype. They overhyped the hell out of it. Bailey says, still the greatest Money in the Bank preview. The year's 6 contestants sat on ladders in the ring and Chris Jericho couldn't explain where he won Money in the Bank. That was the year Ambrose won. That was hilarious. Fiend says, considering Lunchley wasn't that much better for you than Lunchable, it makes more sense for people to be fine with the cheese product since it won't go moldy. Cal says, do you ever see Will Ospreay in WWE one day? I don't know. I think there are opportunities for him there. I just don't think he'd necessarily want to take them. He seems pretty happy where he is. Kevin says, what was the reason Rey Mysterio never was heel? Vince pretty much believed that he was too small to ever be anything other than an underdog face. Cal thinks the best Money in the Bank cash-in was Dolph Ziggler. I have a soft spot for Dean Ambrose. I really do, because of how all three members of the Shield were world champion in 5 minutes. I also think Seth's initial cash-in, the heist of the century, it was good. It was really good. Interesting, Cal. Interesting. Cena picking a fight with Cody. We are back on the beatdown. Sean would like to see Jamie Hayter in WWE one day. There's going to be a lot of swapping around between AEW and WWE over the years. I've said for a while, Ember Moon's coming back. Nice to see that being reported today. But yeah, Ember Moon's obviously coming back. I agree with you there, Hector. There's no doubt in my mind that Lesnar did put on some fantastic matches, and the one against Cena definitely stands out. Fiend says it's hard to ever say whether a wrestler will or will not, since Edge was what we all thought was a WWE lifer and he jumped ship. Yeah, WWE did not want to offer him a new contract. They really didn't. Sean says best women's cash-in. I liked Alexa's, but I think I really liked Bayley's. The Nikki Cross one wasn't good. Carl wants to see Adam Cole back in WWE. Says what I found of AEW, so many guys get long injuries. Why do you think that is? I can't really comment. I don't watch enough AEW to speculate. Sean thinks eventually MJF will come to WWE. Carl says Edge is allergic to putting someone over. Been saying it for years, mate. Been saying it for years. And Bailey says, if Athena has given the signal she wants to go back to WWE, does Mercedes pick up that belt as well? Plenty of other people who could be involved. I wouldn't say she's given the signal. I would just say she wants to come back. Fiend says, if Edge's relatively strong booking is any indication of what he wanted from WWE, then nah, I'm good. He can go. I remember sort of being very, very anti-Edge. Both in Nick and Tom's and on these channels, because he wasn't letting anyone pin him. He wasn't putting anyone over. He wasn't developing the next generation. He was just making himself look good. Didn't even go out on his back. Interesting stat, Carl says Edge has been pinned 6 times since 2020. Yes, Hector, you're not wrong. Nikki Cross, almost a superhero. She didn't beat Charlotte Flair, but she almost beat Charlotte Flair, and that makes her a winner. No. Fiend says, I lost any and all respect for Copeland after he beat Finn at Mania. Sean says, would Ember be allowed back after her comments about the talent in NXT? Of course she would. Of course she would. It's Triple H. He loves the woman. Okay, so I think I'm checking this match every couple of minutes, and Jey Uso is still getting beaten up by John Cena and Logan Paul. It's just all right. Cal says, Tom, I have to say, Bo's vignette reminded me of Bray. Bray was right when he said Bo is so talented, he needs the time to show it. A lot of what Bo is doing right now has already been scripted by Bray. But he's also working with similar writers, so there will be the same element of crossover. I'm interested to see how it goes. That's a poor sleeper. Get your arm under. He doesn't do a lot of sleepers, does he? Fiend says it does piss me off. Looking back, the Edge never put Roman over clean. He didn't really put anyone over clean. Didn't really put anyone over. Things have not improved in AEW. Cal says I really loved Bray's face on Bose when talking about brotherhood. Cal says how did Gunter tap to that sleeper hold? I'd imagine it was a little more intense, but that was pretty poor. Kevin says I was surprised Becky's no longer got red hair, she's now blonde. The red is faded, but I wouldn't say she's blonde as of yet. I mean, her natural hair color is brown. I want to be able to say something about this match, but that was a poor big boot. We'll see how it goes, Bailey. I'm not willing just yet to say that, but I have mentioned that a couple of their names did make it onto a cost-benefit analysis list. Naturally, I got called a fraud for that, and then R-Truth got released. So yes, there was more people on the cost-benefit analysis list. I don't know, Cal. It's difficult because I knew a lot about Bray, and I can't go into any great detail as to what I mean by that. That's all I can really say at the moment. And I think, unfortunately, that's all I'm ever going to be able to say. Eric, when you say I'm seeing, give me a source. You don't just get to say I'm seeing. You have to give me a source. Fiend says, then people you even showed respect to chose aside with SRS because they want to leech off of his popularity. Yeah. I've had people say to me that they know I'm right, but they would love to be able to work with more popular wrestling journalists. So they're going to say I'm wrong. I've had people say that. It was a real gut punch at the time. At a time when I needed people, people didn't just desert. They stabbed on the way out. Thankfully nowadays, I'm in a much better position. And I can see them for what they are. They're cowards. Hector says, Tom, do you see anyone in the Y6 getting any kind of gimmick match like the Firefly Funhouse or House of Horrors, or is WWE done with the over-the-top gimmick matches? They're done with those particular style of over-the-top gimmick matches. Fiend just says zero integrity about those individuals. Cal says, I'm the number one source in the world. Jey might win here. Sean says, is it safe to say this match is a bit boring? Yeah, I don't really care what's happening. Bailey says, for those still following the match, it's a mess. So far, it's getting a 3 for me. Like, they're really building to the hot tag, and yes, people are going to pop for Cody. And at that point, we might actually get a wrestling match. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't it be great if, like, in my wrestling show, there was some wrestling? So, Eric, what you're telling me is that your source is no one. Maybe think about that. Fiend says, Cena and Logan are here to ruin wrestling, so I was never expecting anything too entertaining. You are not alone. Cal says, I really like Howdy saying we return not for nostalgia or closure. I really love it. That's an FU to the haters. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I enjoyed that. Oh. First sign of unhappiness from Logan Paul there. I think he's going to have a disappointing end to this one. Devil says, I expect some big thing to happen to save this calamity of a match. Our John Cena Logan Paul issues is still making me think we might get a Seth. Bailey says the crowd seems uninterested. I wouldn't go that far. There's been plenty of chanting. I think the crowd are at least somewhat invested. Cal says Cena and Logan going to attack each other. Just giving Cody an opportunity there. Just giving Cody the opportunity. Cody got a decent pop there. And he's bringing up the tempo. Good reactions there, actually, because he was nowhere near Cena's head. Eric says, I just thought of something. If Seth wants to save wrestling's future, then why doesn't he cash in on the guy trying to ruin it? Because they're working together. And Fiend says, I think Cena is turning face. I do not. Certainly not before the rematch with Cody. They're already worried about people booing Cody. Bit early to be going for a finish, mate. Calm down. First AA? Yeah. First of many. What? Why would Jey Uso go in for the save? You don't need to. Everybody always kicks out of the AA. You know what? I'm glad Logan was going to get hit with something there, because that was nearly an embarrassing moment. That's one, he never finishes. He's put himself into the perfect position there. Cal says, I don't think Cena can turn heel if he is to retire in December. Well, I mean, he's already a heel. Fiend says, Seth Rollins has spoken against Cena's title, particularly when it was Roman who was holding it. So why would he target Cena? He cares about Jey's title. Well, to be fair, he cares about his title. Inaugural and all that jazz. That splash was a little awkward, but I think Logan Paul might be having some issues with the ropes. Tempo's gone up. The match is suddenly interesting. And they're trying to advertise injury lawyers. They're advertising injury lawyers, but they definitely don't want the actual wrestlers to know about them. Fiend says, quite rightly, Seth views Cena's title as the lesser title. He wants to get it over. He wants to get it over, and he's on a mission to do that. So that future World Heavyweight Champions are a big deal. Cal, why would you even say that? You're tempting fate, and I don't respect it. It's an awkward knee. Eric, that's not a wrestle-up source. The WWE announced that Nikki Bella will be returning on Monday. The WWE announced it during the show. That's not sourced by WrestleOps. That's WWE. They're the source. But I appreciate you going out to look for it. But I believe what you said was that Brie is coming back. Cal says it's crazy to think AJ and Cena are around the same age. AJ's damn fit. Okay, this is our second punch-out spot in 2 minutes. Okay, Cody's made it interesting. Fair play. Never imagined I'd be a Cody versus Logan Paul guy, and I'm not. I did want to say about the pulverizer. He loses control of it. It's really quite risky. He really lost control on SmackDown, but he did manage to save it by over-cradling and essentially had to drag Cody's head up at the last minute. Could possibly have really hurt his neck. Oh, we're doing drone stuff again. Still holding the drone. Oh, that was really cool. okay, I love the drone. I love the drone. That was amazing. It literally took a whole rating point has just been added to the match for that one moment. That was cool. Steve says, I guess I'll tune back in, waiting for the football game to start. Now's the time. Heading into the finish. Double AA, so kick out of his second. Yep. Cal says, for someone who's supposed to have a deadly punch like Logan, he doesn't half have punch fights. Fiend says, Logan Paul's finisher is good. Looks cool. He's dangerous. Cal says, that was awesome. Joey says, matches like this just make me laugh. The main event scene in WWE nowadays is very WCW. Cal says he doesn't actually win with the AA unless it's against The Miz. We've spoken about this. There is one notable exception, and it's The Miz. The Miz will always be pinned by one AA. It's not a rule or anything. It's just The Miz just won't kick out of an AA. It's actually very notable. Fair Fiend. Cal says, will we ever see The Rock again? Yes, in your dreams. So I'm guessing he's going to stand on one commentary table and deliver an AA through the other commentary table. Since the hot tag, they took way too long to get there. But since the hot tag, this has been a good match. Again, it took us way too long to get there. Oh, a spear? The table did not break. The table no-sold him. Eric says Cena's is on par with anyone using Blue Thunder Bomb as their finisher. To be fair, one time that did end up in someone getting pinned. Just the once. I am realising now, and I realise I'm probably way late to this, but Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes have sorted out matching gear. Oh. Can I just say, and we need to say this. I don't want to say this, but we have to say this. Logan Paul's amazing. We all know it. We all know it. None of us like it. But we all know it. Logan Paul is amazing. That's how it is. With no Logan Paul involved, it does start to feel like a Cena win, but hey, championship. Who have we got? That's not Roman. Who dat? Oh my word. You know what I didn't see coming? That. He's still technically under contract. He hasn't left the company yet. He's still under contract. I did not see that. That was beautiful. That was amazing. Talk about listening to the crowd. I did not see that coming at all. Logan Paul is still selling it. Ah, no, Cal, it doesn't mean he's staying. He hasn't left yet. Like, he wasn't fired. I remember that, Eric. It did not last long. The match still wasn't good. The majority of it was boring and dull. I'm giving it a 6 because it did get good, and it got quite good. It just took way too long to get there. Nobody said R-Truth was gone for good, not yet. R-Truth. Imagine a world. Just imagine a world. You want to get a big pop? That got a big pop. Right, I got to get that one on TikTok. I do think, given the fan reaction, they probably offered him a better deal. I don't know. I'll have to do some research. R-Truth returns to screw John Cena during WWE Money in the Bank 2025. So, same thing. That's the end of the show. So no Seth. Returns to screw John Cena. Truth is still officially under WWE contract and has not yet signed a new one, because to my knowledge he has not. And just highlight, that is WWE Money in the... I keep dropping Z's. Money in the Bank 2025 highlights, because the phrase highlights tends to get views. Job's a good one. So guys, I did not see that finish coming. I quite enjoyed it though, gotta say. It does not mean he's staying. It does not guarantee anything. I think given the fan reaction, no, Joey was not to work the whole time. I think given the fan reaction, WWE might have changed their minds. But all I will say is that at the moment, R-Truth, like, he wasn't fired. He was told his contract were not going to be renewed. Cal, if they didn't report that he was going to be there beforehand, how could they report that he's staying? How? We'll find out, I'm sure. We will find out. Bailey says maybe they'll reconsider, and that's what I think is the most likely scenario now. Cal says, why would Seth not cash in? Because at the moment was R-Truth's. Brought to you by Morgan & Morgan. Sean says, with his appearance, do you think Truth has signed a new deal? Again, not yet. And Joey says, maybe he's on a Legends deal now. It's not an impossibility, but again, I don't think so yet. Sean says, no Seth cash in, maybe tomorrow. Maybe. That's what Sai was certainly thinking. So that was a very pleasant surprise. Really quite enjoyed that one. I like that they can still very much pull the wool over my eyes. Because I definitely didn't see that one. But as I say, R-Truth's contract is not over. He was not fired. He still had a few weeks left to run before his actual time at the company had ended. He still had a few weeks left. So he still works for the company, and he will still do as essentially he's told. Steve says Seth will only cash in to screw CM Punk. Seth is very focused on Jey Uso. Rickan says, do you think the WWE Universe is the reason R-Truth is back? R-Truth didn't go anywhere. R-Truth never left. Okay, I want to be clear on that. R-Truth did not leave. He has been under WWE contract the entire time. He was simply told that his contract would not be renewed. Now, based on the reception, the WWE might have rethought their decision. And they might now be thinking, let's get you tied to a new deal. Or it's very possible that what they've said to him is, hey, for your last couple of weeks, let's get you involved. That might be the last we ever see of R-Truth. We don't know. At the moment, everything is speculation. Is a few more weeks yet, Eric? To my understanding, a few more weeks. But yeah, he is still officially on a WWE contract. He is still employed by them. So this could go in a lot of different ways. It may well be that the WWE themselves now say, oh, well, you wanted him, you got him. But yeah, we'll see. I've mentioned the cost-benefit analysis. If the crowd are that into R-Truth, the benefit is massively increased, isn't it? Rickan says maybe Cena told WWE he wanted him involved more before he leaves. Cena has done that. I've reported on that previously. Cena's been trying to ensure that R-Truth gets more opportunities. Martin says, did he leave? I thought you said not renewed. He wasn't released, which people read. Yeah, his contract is not going to be renewed, or at least that was what he was told. At no point did he leave the company. It depends what you mean by everyone, Jonathan. As I say, I did report that his contract is not being renewed and that he is actually still with the company. So I don't think everyone was worked, but I certainly think it caught a lot of people out, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised by that. I think the WWE have made the best of a pretty bad situation there. They've certainly stopped the chanting, I'll tell you that. And it explains why John Cena was so aggressive with the We Want Truth chant yesterday. Because he knew what was coming. Oh, it was lovely, lovely finish. Right, on that very happy finale, I'm going to wrap it up because it is nearly 3:30 in the morning here. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's joined us, everyone who's chatted. You've been very talkative today, and I thank you very much for it. We haven't needed the chat rate boost as much as we sometimes do. We've had plenty of people join us, been 438 views, good overall, happy. And quite a lot of squats, 15 squats. So for 3 hours work, that's not a bad rate. Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you on Monday with more news, and I'll see what I can find out as regards R-Truth and whether there's any further offer happening. Until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.